This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
He worked so hard to ensure we had a great life, but now he's gone. We miss him so much. One day our granddaughter won't remember him, or how wonderful he was. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we could upload all our photos and videos of him.
Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 1. Who Killed Jamal Blue? The 10-year-old approached the home plate with butterflies in his stomach, as he was the last to bat for his team. Sporting his brand new jersey that read the name Jamal Blue, sponsored by the local funeral home, and brand new baseball cleats given to Jamal by his father. The hot southern sun's rays seemed extra bright today, causing Jamal to sweat heavily. He wiped off quickly before he needed to focus on the opposing team's pitcher. The biggest Baptist church in town sponsored the opposing team. The pitcher facing Jamal was one of the best pitchers they had. Jamal needed to focus as he needed just one more run to win the game. So he stood upright and got into his batting stance. Jamal swung at the first pitch and missed by a long shot. "Focus, son! Keep your back straight! You got this!" screamed Jamal's father, sitting amongst the spectators. Jamal heard the umpire yell, "Strike one!" and he quickly got back into proper posture, preparing himself to bat without wasting any time. He swung the second time and heard the umpire yell, "Strike two!" And now he became more focused than ever, because the next pitch was his last in the baseball game. However, before Jamal could collect himself completely, he suddenly heard loud music playing in the distance out of nowhere, which diverted not just his, but also everyone's attention. The distraction did not last long as Jamal heard the umpire yell, "Let's play ball!" which prompted him to refocus his attention on the pitcher, while reminding himself that it was now or never. The pitcher threw the ball that was almost about to meet the bat swinging towards him, when suddenly gunshots were heard from the car's direction playing the loud music. Suddenly everyone panicked and started to run, which caused more panic. The players on the field quickly ran towards their dugouts, and the umpire dived to the ground in panic. Parents of the players rushed towards the field in various directions to make sure their children were okay, including Loco and Dee Blue, Jamal Blue's parents. As Jamal's parents tried to get closer to the field, they kept yelling Jamal's name with no response from the other side of the panicking crowd. Upon finally making it to the home plate, they found their son's lifeless body lying on the red dirt, which instantly caused Dee Blue to scream in anguish as she fell to her knees, and Loco Blue was left motionless, almost as if he were paralyzed. Jamal was shot in the chest by one of the gunman's bullets, sitting in the car playing loud music. It took Loco a second to snap out of his inactivity, as he suddenly tried to put his hands on his son's wound in a futile attempt to stop the bleeding while tears rolled down his eyes. Loco's attention quickly shifted towards the car's screeching tires that hosted the suspected gunman, and suddenly, Loco realized that he knew who the car belonged to. The car pulled out of the driveway and made a run for it.
Get up, son!
Loco held on to Dee as he tried to console her with all the emotional energy he had left in him. "Dee, listen to me, Dee! I'm making sure whoever did this is buried 10 feet under the ground. Don't worry, all right? You hear me?" said Loco to Dee as she kept crying her eyes out. Meanwhile, Thomas Williams, an investigative reporter, was sitting amongst the crowd attending the game to support his family-sponsored baseball team. The Williams Funeral Home had proudly sponsored several community events and organizations for the past 4 years. Thomas, who was there as a fan, was thrown into the crime scene as the first reporter and could not believe his luck. The Williamses had always resented Thomas's decision to become an investigative reporter rather than joining the family business. Now, Thomas suddenly saw a chance to finally prove to himself and his family that he made the right decision. Without giving it another thought, Thomas stood up. He began approaching the grieving parents of Jamal Blue so he could ask them some questions before the police arrived, which would close his window of opportunity to get the story before anyone else. However, upon closer inspection, Thomas noticed that the parents were in no state to answer any questions, as he could see their emotions running wild with hurt and anger. Finally, after hearing the sirens approaching from the distance, Thomas decided to abort his attempt at getting a story and decided to take a few pictures of the scene of the crime before he left. As Thomas left the field, he replayed the whole scene in his mind. The loud rap music, followed by loud gunshots fired by someone inside the car. Thomas concluded that the murder of the innocent child resulted from gang violence, which had been present in his small southern town since he was a young boy. As he walked away from the scene of the crime, Thomas thought to himself that he would get to the bottom of whoever it was that shot the child. Now, more than ever, his reputation was on the line, and he was not planning on backing down anytime soon.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist us by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and mean a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us. So be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
Ever since he came into our lives, he became one of the family. But now he's gone. Time goes by so fast, I wonder if she'll remember him as she grows older without him. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him. Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 2. The Burial of an Innocent Soul. It had now been 2 days since the tragedy in the small southern town, and both Loco and Dee Dee were struggling to come to terms with their loss. Loco was the local Crip gang leader, and that made him respected across town. Therefore, the support the Blue family received from the community was overwhelming. Loco and Dee Dee decided to choose the Williams' funeral home to handle their child's funeral. Even though the Williamses were white, they had always catered to the black community's deceased loved ones, while others in town would not. This made the Williams' funeral home the favorite funeral home for the black community in town. As both Loco and Dee Dee pulled up to the funeral home's parking lot, Thomas, who was there to assist his mother, Mary Williams, saw an opportunity to question the grieving parents about the tragic accident that happened to their son. Both of the parents were still in anguish. Loco had an indignant look on his face, while Dee Dee looked like she had not slept in weeks. Thomas knew that approaching the parents right now could be considered insensitive, but he was also worried that this might be the last chance to do so. Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Blue. My name is Mark Williams. I am the owner of this humble establishment. Let me say how sorry I am for your loss. He assisted the parents towards the casket room to pick a casket for their beloved son. He gave the parents some privacy to choose a casket while they contacted the family's insurance company to verify the life insurance. Thomas was waiting patiently for the family to get done with picking a casket, and as soon as the Blues were done, he decided to approach them. Hello, I'm Thomas Williams. I'm the grandson of Mark Williams, the funeral homeowner. Thomas reached out his hand to the boy's father without thinking much about his actions. Loco reciprocated the handshake with a strange look on his face, and Dee Dee somehow managed to smile for Thomas, even though she was devastated. I mean no disrespect, and I'm very sorry for your loss. I'm a local investigative reporter, and I would like to ask you some questions about the tragic incident that involved the death of your son the other day. As those words spilled out of Thomas's mouth, he saw the rage grow in Loco's face, which made Thomas prepare himself to be assaulted with harsh language. But before Loco could say anything, Dee Dee stepped in with kind but serious words.
I know that you see us trying to bury our baby. Now I will answer your questions after we finish our business with your grandfather, Mr. Williams.
Meanwhile, Loco, who was not too happy with the audacity that Thomas showed, looked at Thomas directly in his eyes and spoke volumes. You insensitive, dumb motherfucker. Can you see that we are trying to arrange the burial of our baby? Cuz I should beat your ass right where you stand, you dumb bastard. Get your ass out of my face.
Calm down, baby. Putting your hands on this man isn't going to bring me back my baby. And besides, he didn't kill my baby,
said Dee Dee as she tried to de-escalate the situation. But I know the motherfucker who did, and he can't hide forever. Fuck those punk-ass bloods, shouted Loco Blue. Thomas made a mental note of what Loco said and instantly tried to calm him down by saying, I apologize if I seem rude. That is not my intention. I just do not want your son's death to go in vain. We can make sure that your son will never be forgotten in this community, this state, the country, and the whole world. Therefore, I will respectively wait as Mrs. Blue has requested until your son's funeral arrangements are in order. I will also talk to my grandfather to help lower your funeral expenses.
Thank you,
said Dee Dee. If you can help with that, cuz, we're going to answer your questions before we leave. If not, this conversation is over, said Loco as his attention was diverted towards Mark, who was entering the casket room with a strange look on his face. Mark informed the parents that their life insurance plan was not enough to cover all the funeral expenses. Before the parents could say anything, Thomas spoke to Mark with a desperate look in his eyes. Granddad, can we help them with the remaining costs of their funeral expenses? Of course, we will help them. At Williams's funeral home, we always take care of our community, said Mark with a cordial look on his face. Upon hearing this, the couple felt relieved as they walked into Mark's office, where Mary Williams greeted them. Reverend Albright, head of the Mount Olive Baptist Church, was also present in the office to discuss the parents' funeral proceedings. After an hour of discussion, everyone emerged from Mark's office with a sense of relief on their faces. It was now time for Thomas to ask his questions to the boys' parents. Meanwhile, Reverend Albright and Mark went into the casket room to discuss the graveside service that the family had requested. Firstly, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to ask your questions about the incident involving your son's death, said Thomas. You guys, Loco responded. Man, let us get this shit over with. I promise you that you could ask your questions because you looked out for us there. But I'm going to tell you the same shit I told the police. I don't know shit. And why are you pretending to give a shit anyway, cuz? You just tried to help yourself so you can make a career off our fucked up situation. I assure you, Mr. Blue, that is not my intention. I'm purely trying to ensure that this tragic incident will not happen again in our community and that the ones who murdered your son be brought to justice. Loco, with an agitated look on his face, said, Nigga, please. You out here talking about justice and shit. How the fuck are you gonna prevent something like this from happening again? You lucky this the only funeral home in town. And as far as the ones responsible for killing my baby, these fools will be dealt with and you can trust that, cuz. Shit, I wish that Johnson funeral home was still around. I'd rather give my business to a black man, but I don't have a fucking choice, do I?
Loco, shut the fuck up,
said Dee Dee.
Mr. Thomas, ask your questions. I have my other children waiting in my sister's house, and they got school in the morning, so we need to wrap this up.
Thomas, who did not want to waste the family's time, proceeded with his questions. Well, let me start off by saying that I was there on the day of the incident, attending the baseball game. I know everything happened so fast, I had to hide when the bullets were flying. I remember seeing your son waiting on the pitch, and then chaos ensued. What do you remember about that day? With teary eyes, Dee Dee replied to Thomas's question.
My baby was at bat, and he was focusing on hitting the ball. We were all cheering for him. Then a car playing some loud-ass music interrupted the game. I recognized that car because everything on it was red. A red Buick Regal, red-colored rims, and red seats.
Loco was not too happy and angrily interrupted by saying, Bitch, shut the fuck up! What the fuck is your problem? Look, cuz, we were there to support our boy. Them niggas started shooting up the place. Once the shooting stopped, my baby was dead with a bat still in his hands. Other than that, we don't know shit. Hold on. Just a minute ago, you mentioned that the person who did this would get what is coming to him. Are you implying that you know the individuals who did this? And if so, why not tell the police? If it were my son, I would give that information to the police, stated Thomas. Nigga, it's not my fucking job to tell the police shit. See, I would not expect an L7 nigga like yourself to understand the streets got a no snitch code. See, you a civilian who cannot get that there's rules to this shit. We don't send our enemies to jail, or any human for that matter. But I will tell you this. Those punk motherfuckers better keep hiding. Make it hard for me to find them, to make the hunt more interesting. Because it's going to make it more enjoyable when we catch them bitches. Now that is all the questions we are going to answer. He turned to his wife and muttered, "Bitch, let us go with your big ass mouth." As Dee Dee and Loco drove off, Thomas started to note down whatever he thought was of value from the conversation he had just had. The couple did not give him much, but Dee Dee did slip some information on the car's color, and Loco referred to the individuals as Bloods. This was a lead that Thomas could investigate before the boy's funeral, which was scheduled in 3 days. Later that same day, Thomas decided to visit a friend who worked at the motor vehicles department. Thomas asked him to identify any registered red Buick Regals in the area. His friend found 3 cars that matched the description provided by Dee Dee earlier. Thomas went to the first 2 locations to check whether the cars matched the full description, but to no avail, as they were Buicks, but were not red. However, before Thomas could go to the final location, he heard a news alert on the radio station that someone in a red Buick Regal was gunned down in a mobile home in the rural area of the county. No suspects were mentioned over the news alert, but Thomas and most of the community understood who it was that did the murder and why. 3 days had gone by, and today was Jamal Blue's funeral. The turnout of people attending the funeral was very impressive. Everyone from the boys' baseball team to his father's Crip gang was in attendance. Thomas, meanwhile, stood at the back of the burial site and observed. Reverend Albright was presiding over the ceremony and the final rites before the young boy was to be placed in the ground. Jamal's mother was understandably in pain and was loudly crying while Loco remained strong, but his eyes reflected the pain he was going through. Everyone listened to the Reverend as he preached. We are faced with another tragedy in our community. When did it become unsafe for our children to play, to enjoy their youth safe from harm? Why must our babies be gunned down, forced to live in violent environments? Here lies a young boy dead as another mother mourns a loss. I ask myself and you, why? We will not let the memory of Jamal Blue be forgotten. This child's life was full of promise. Whoever, because of acts of cowards, he continued, he now dwells with the Lord. Jamal Blue will not be forgotten. While his mother cries and his father's heart aches with loss and sorrow, let us as a community unite and stop these kinds of senseless acts. The Lord is our shepherd, we shall not want. Please protect and love our babies. Let us not do the devil's work for him. As we lay little Jamal Blue to rest, we pray and give condolence to his parents, siblings, and loved ones. Again, I say to you on this very day that Jamal Blue will not be forgotten. Reverend Albright's sermon deeply moved Thomas. He was now even more determined to uncover and expose the culprits behind the destruction of his community with crime, guns, and drugs. Thomas was fixated on using all the resources and informants he had to prevent another child from being murdered. After the burial was over with, the family and the attendants left the burial site. Thomas stayed longer than everyone else because he wanted to talk to some of the funeral home employees and introduce himself to some of the new drivers. As Thomas was on his way to talk to them, he noticed his grandfather and Reverend Albright were having a friendly conversation. This seemed odd to Thomas, because the Reverend had just preached such a powerful sermon moments ago. Thomas continued to walk towards the employees lowering the child's casket when his grandfather stopped him and reintroduced him to Reverend Albright. Thomas, let me introduce you to Reverend Albright. Didn't he give just a powerful sermon today? Indeed, he did. Pleased to meet you. How are you, Reverend? The sermon deeply moved me, replied Thomas in a genuine manner. Why, thank you, my son. It really angers me to lose another young, innocent child in such a senseless way. We must unite the community and fight against such violence, was the Reverend's remark. Thomas and Mark nodded in agreement to Reverend's words. The Reverend continued, You know, your family and I have been working together for over 30 years. We have sponsored countless programs and events to provide a safe place for all children in this town. That is right, Thomas. We have been there for the black community since the 1980s, and it's a partnership that will continue for many years to come, said Mark in a proud manner. The Reverend then addressed Thomas. Thomas, I understand you're a reporter? Yes, Reverend. I write for the Southern Times. Mark joined in by saying, Yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get this one to join the family business. I've got nothing against the family. I just enjoy writing and providing services to my community in my own way, replied Thomas. To which Mark said, That is my grandson for you, Reverend. Okay, fellas, we need to move and let the employees get started with their job. All three men walked away from the burial site. Thomas left along with the two men. His mind was still laser focused on the case, and tomorrow he would seek one of his informants and question him on Jamal Blue's murder.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and means a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us, so be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
He worked so hard to ensure we had a great life, but now he's gone. We miss him so much. One day our granddaughter won't remember him or how wonderful he was. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him.
Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 3. Digging Deeper. In his pursuit to uncover the truth about who killed Jamal Blue, Thomas decided to visit Westwood Terrace housing development before dawn. This part of town was considered dangerous due to all the gang members living there, but it was just the place to find Thomas's informant, Ricky. Ricky was a small-time drug dealer for the blood gang in this housing project and had been in and out of the justice system all his life. Ricky was Thomas's informant because Thomas had helped him get out of some dire situations in the past. If anyone knew who killed Jamal Blue in this small southern town, it would be Ricky. Finding Ricky was the easy part, if done before anyone in the housing project was awake. Ricky was usually found trying to get his product sold before dawn. Now that Thomas had found Ricky, he had to figure out a way to get his attention without alerting the residents. Ricky! I need to talk to you. Hold up! Whispered Thomas as he approached Ricky. Without showing any signs of distraction, Ricky kept walking straight without acknowledgement of what Thomas just said. Thomas was used to Ricky behaving this way, so he kept persisting. Hi, Ricky. I guess I'm invisible to you when you don't need my help, huh? Let us see who helps you next time the cops try to frame you for narcotics. Maybe I won't answer my phone when you call. Shit! Calm down, I was just bullshitting, man. I saw your white ass as soon as you got out of that whip of yours. You a brave motherfucker to be in this neighborhood at this time of day. Let us go over here so no one sees me talking to your dumb ass. I already got Mims on my ass. I still gotta pay him before I could re-up, said Ricky as he pulled Thomas aside into an alleyway. Look, I don't got time for games. I need to know why someone shot up the kid's baseball game, which resulted in the murder of a child, said Thomas. Yeah, I know the little crab got smoked. Why do you care? Niggas die all the time around here. You never showed any interest before. Shit. Little Bloods was shot while eating breakfast last month. Where were you then? Are you trying to win some Journalist Award of the Month or something? Sneered Ricky. Not at all, said Thomas. I happened to be at the baseball game. I I saw the kid's father trying to stop his son from bleeding to death from his wounds. That shit affected me. I never want anyone to witness shit like that again. Now tell me why this shit happened. The little boy was only 10 years old. Ricky, with an unfazed look on his face, said, "Nigga, I know how old that kid was, and who his parents are too. This gang shit does not just stop because you had a kid's baseball game. This shit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 around the motherfucking clock. That is the type of shit that happens when your mommy cannot be playing both sides of the fence. That bitch was fucking red and blue." Wait, so you're telling me the kid's mother was having an affair? Give me a break. She didn't seem like the type when I met her, said Thomas in disbelief. Who? Dee Dee? Shit, that bitch was fucking her old man Loco Blue and OG Mims. She was OG Mims' old lady before he got locked up. That nigga did 8 years for that bitch. And when he got home, she had 2 kids with his enemy, Loco Blue. Now you tell me if that bitch isn't that type. I still don't understand what that had to do with Jamal being murdered, said Thomas. That kid had nothing to do with it. Did Mims kill the kid? Because the bodies found in the red car that was involved in the drive-by were teenagers. However, before Thomas could get his answer, Ricky noticed an undercover cop car driving slowly with its lights off. Ricky was not sure if the cops were creeping up on him or not, so he quickly grabbed Thomas by the arm and made his way behind the building. Nigga, it's getting hot out here. That's all I'm gonna tell you now. The next time you need information from me, call first. Here, take my number. We can meet at another location. Not where I handle my business. And oh yeah, that will be $100. This shit I'm telling you isn't free. Plus, I know you're going to use this information in your news article, said Ricky with a smirk on his face. Same old Ricky. You got a pocket full of money and still want money from me. Here, take the money and answer when I call you, said Thomas as he handed Ricky a $100 bill. You know it. Next time it's going to cost you double, snickered Ricky. Unbeknownst to both men at the time, they were being watched by OG Mims and corrupt police officers Davis and Kelly. The officers were there to collect their money from the gang leader, as they allowed the gang to sell drugs in the housing development under protection. What up, bops? Here's your damn money, said OG Mims. Why the fuck you bops must get your money at 5 a.m.? Why not later in the fucking day? Not me waking up in the wee hours of the morning and shit. I hate waking up at this time in the morning. I just want to sleep. Shit, I thought all you drug dealers worked all night and slept all day. I haven't met a decent gang member in a year, said Officer Kelly in a sarcastic manner. Anyway, I want my money at this time of day because everybody else is asleep. Isn't no chance of being spotted. You know what I mean? Plus, everyone in this neighborhood is unemployed and sleep late anyway. Yo, who the fuck is talking at the corner of that apartment building? Nobody's usually awake at this time of morning. And damn, is that a white boy over there? What is he doing here? Noted Officer Kelly. Man, that's probably a crackhead. These motherfuckers are walking zombies 24 hours a day, said OG Mims as he ignored the whole situation. Drugs. Let that man get me my money so I can keep paying you dirty ass bops. And for the record, motherfuckers do work around here. Officer Kelly started laughing and said to OG Mims, for the last time, it's cops with your dumb ass. Also, when was the last time you saw a white crackhead in a suit around this area? The laughing stopped as soon as all three men focused on the two individuals having a secretive conversation in a dark corner, and OG Mims finally realized one of the men's identity. Shit, that's motherfucking Ricky. That nigga better be selling my product. That nigga still owes me from his last re-up. Is this going to be a problem? Stated Officer Kelly. Do we have anything to worry about? I have no problem putting that nigger somewhere that no one will ever find him. Nah, you straight. Don't worry about it. But I'll have my G's keep an eye on him for a few days. As the cops pulled away, OG Mims was walking into the apartment building when a blue car speeding down the street in his direction shot several shots at him, hitting OG Mims in the arm and leg. It all happened so fast that he missed who it was that had shot him. But this brief interaction was enough to convince OG that it was a Crip gang doing. OG Mims got into his car and drove towards the hospital by himself. And while he was driving, he thought to himself that no one or no place would be safe after they attempted to kill him, and that this meant war.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist us by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and mean a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us. So be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
Ever since he came into our lives, he became one of the family. But now he's gone. Time goes by so fast, I wonder if she'll remember him as she grows older without him. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him. Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 4. A Dark Past Catching Up. Back at Mount Olive Baptist Church, Reverend Albright held a community meeting addressing crimes in the neighborhood. And as usual, the attendance emotions were high. The church had been a focal point in the community for over 20 years. Even the local gang leaders, who were once friends on the church's sponsored sporting teams, were also members of the church before their life's paths led them towards the same goal, which was to rule the streets of their town. Therefore, Mount Olive Baptist Church was considered a neutral zone for all the criminals in town. It was the only place where all parties could relax and let their guard down for a moment. However, that was about to change. Ever since Reverend Albright took over the struggling young church, he became the only one trying to help end senseless violence. On the day of a planned peace rally, many people came to listen to the Reverend speak, including Thomas. He was there to cover an event for the newspaper and potentially get more information about Jamal Blue's murder. Dee Dee, who shared her story with other mothers who had lost their children, thought this would help her heal with her own child's loss. While she was sharing her experience of loss, a well-dressed stranger sitting at the very back of the church caught the eye of Thomas as he was picking his seat before the Reverend delivered his speech to the audience. Thomas had never seen this man before, and from this man's demeanor, he seemed like a man that demanded respect. After everyone was seated, the Reverend began to speak. For years now, the number of murders in our community has increased. We have children being gunned down while playing, killed while watching television inside their homes, and killed while going to school. These children killed are disproportionately black. The men who represent this community have limited opportunities to succeed and sometimes do whatever it takes to feed their families. Often, our society's men pick up guns and choose the path of crime, which leads to robberies, shootings, and murder. Yes, even the murder of Jamal Blue. His name shall not be forgotten. Everyone in the church was quiet and focused on the Reverend as he continued his heartfelt, charismatic speech. The result of all of this is prison. And as you all know, black men are given longer sentences than others. These brothers are faced with leaving their women behind to provide and protect the family. And often the brothers leave for years, and sometimes forever. Please remember that the government didn't make any brother commit a crime, but will make damn sure that he will remain in prison or jail for a longer time than any other prisoner. That is why we must stop doing the work for them and finally come together as one and support each other in all aspects of life, be it business or brotherhood. If not, we will have no chance to survive in a country that has hated and deprived us for hundreds of years. The women in the congregation could be heard gasping as they listened to these words come out of the Reverend's mouth. Now, let us talk about guns in our community. How and who brings these objects of oppression and danger into our town? Why is it that most of the gun violence happening in the state is in our town? I will tell you why. Because that is how they want it. It has been this way for years. All the crime men on this damn side of the railroad track. Now our beautiful black women are left raising their children by themselves. What woman envisions herself as a little girl raising children by herself? I'll answer that for you. None. All of the women nodded in unison as they heard Albright speak these words. They are forced to be the mother and the father all at once. This leaves a woman alone trying to raise a man, which is not impossible but is damn hard to do correctly. If God forbid they do not get it right, their sons will look for father figures outside of their homes. This can lead them to become drug dealers or pimps. These women are forced to work long hours, working 2, maybe 3 jobs to provide for their families, while the children are left with the television and the streets to provide role models. My friends, both options are not ideal for raising children. All it takes is negative images of us on television being criminals, thugs, or gay, and the next generations will think this behavior is acceptable and will emulate it. Then we will have future generations lost. We got to stop this cycle now, not next week, not next year, but now. The crowd's emotions were high as everyone started to gasp and sigh. People, I for one am tired of burying our young men and women. The senseless killings must stop. Our church, Mount Olive Baptist, will play a critical role in addressing gun violence and assisting in creating a tranquil community for all of us. As a member of this community and a leader of faith, I will work to devote myself and the church to move our people towards others who will contribute to this cause against the unjust criminalization of black men fighting the corrupt judicial system. The Reverend was about to continue before he glanced at the back of the church, and he could not believe who he saw sitting all the way in the back. It was Bells. No, not Bells. Anyone but him. How the hell is he out of prison? Reverend Albright thought to himself as he stood frozen for half a minute. Bells was an old school drug dealer that Reverend Albright worked for before giving his life to the Lord. The Reverend thought to himself that Bells was supposed to be in prison for life. How did he get out? Reverend Albright was forced to come up with random scenarios like Bells snitching to get out of jail quickly, or that Bells straight up broke out somehow. Whatever was the case, one thing was for sure. Bell's presence could only mean that shit was about to change in the community, and it was not for the better. The Reverend suddenly caught himself and tried finishing the speech, but soon started stumbling over his words. A strong feeling of worry took over the usually smooth and charismatic speaker as he finally spoke. Well, I seem to have talked up here long enough. Can the Mount Olive Baptist church singers lead us in a song of spiritual unity? The choir rose from their seating positions and began to sing. The song even had Thomas, the only white face in the church, shouting with joy. Reverend Albright tried to leave the church by the side entrance without being noticed, when suddenly gunfire erupted from outside. The shattered glass came flying into the church as the crowd's loud singing turned into cries of fear. Everyone started to run towards the exits, and unfortunately, the elderly was forced to hide in the pulpit. Thomas quickly tried to help some children who were separated from their mothers. Dee Dee, who was just re-entering the church after talking to her husband in the parking lot, quickly grabbed her children and started running, fearing the worst had happened to her husband. The scene was absolute chaos. Everyone ran in a panicked state. Everyone except Bells. Bells never moved from his seat. His eyes were firmly targeted onto the Reverend as if there was no way he was going to let the Reverend get out of his sight. All those built-up emotions and things to say that were boiling within Bells were now ready to come out, as he had spent years behind bars waiting for this exact moment of revenge. Once the dust of chaos subsided and the evening approached, the police came to the church to ask the Reverend some questions. The death toll of the whole incident was identified as 10 being dead and many injured. One of the dead was Local Blues' driver. No one could believe that the church would ever become a crime scene. It had now become evident that a gang war had begun. After everything was taken care of, Reverend Albright looked out for Bells as he quickly made his way to his car. On his way to the car, the Reverend thought, "There's sure gonna be a lot of funerals in the coming days. I better keep my energy up." Once seated, Reverend Albright's driver started the car and almost began pulling out of the driveway when suddenly the car's passenger door opened, and it was Bells, who looked incredibly pissed. The Reverend shouted at his driver to pull off at full speed, but received no feedback as the driver became frozen and dared not to cross Bells as he knew who Bells was. "Leaving so soon, Rev? You didn't even bother saying hello. I know you saw me when you were preaching. I see you can still talk shit. Hopefully your precious community do not believe that shit. Do not think for a second. I did not see you trying to sneak out the side door. Trust and believe I'm going to be on your ass until you make everything right for me." Reverend Albright hesitantly replied, "My brother, you got it all wrong. I don't talk bullshit no more. Everything I do is for the community. And my words are from the Lord. When did you get out of prison? I hope you're not a snitch or did something worse. You know brothers don't take kindly to that type of shit." "Watch your fucking mouth, nigga." Bells continued, "I know your ass has not changed. You a small-time hustler, and you are always going to be one. Now what happened to taking care of your brother while I was locked up? You motherfuckers left me to rot. Left me for dead up in that bitch. You left my Dee Dee to take care of herself. Got my daughter struggling to survive. Nigga, don't play games with me." Reverend Albright was doing a commendable job until now of keeping his calm, but now started to lose it as soon as Bells pulled out a gun and pointed it at Reverend's head, which made him start jabbering to avoid any altercations. "Hold on a minute now, Brother Bells," said Albright. "What are you doing, man? This is not you. Calm down for a second. We both know murder was never your style. You need money? I will get you some money right now. Let us go to my house. Why are you doing this unnecessary shit? Put that gun away, brother. Come on." Bells stated, "See, that's that fast-talking punk motherfucker I know. Yes, I want the money. All the goddamn money you owe me. And since my grandchild was murdered, yeah, I'm all about that murder game, bitch. Now drive this fucking $230,000 car you got. That shit serves as proof of the blood-sucking vampire you really are to this community." Soon enough, the men were driving up the Reverend's long driveway leading to his estate. Bells could not believe his eyes. The Reverend had acres of land and 2 houses on the property. He thought, how in the hell did this guy not send money for my commissary? He's not even providing for my daughter. She grew up in the same housing projects that's only miles from his church. Dee Dee was only a baby when Bells went to prison, and her mother never brought her to visit Bells in prison. Bells did not want to see her or even build a relationship with her. He was on a life sentence, and it did not make any sense for him to try to become a part of Dee Dee's life if he could not protect her or her mother. But the Reverend knew the code, and he did not follow suit. Yeah, this motherfucker is going to pay dearly for that shit, thought Bells with clenched fist. Once they got out of the car, Bells put his gun back into his jacket as he knew the Reverend would not dare try anything, knowing his situation. Bells knew that he had the Reverend on the ropes now. Both men entered the extravagant estate and were greeted by 2 beautifully exotic young women, lightly dressed and waiting for the good Reverend to arrive. The women barely spoke English and were very obedient. Bells was right. The Reverend never changed. He just found a new hustle. "Come on in, man. Hola, baby girls. Please go upstairs while I talk to my visitor,"
Sí, we go upstairs, papi,
said one of the 2 young women as they obediently obliged. "Nigga, now I see why you live out here in the boondocks. So no one can see your nasty ass with these young girls. Where the hell did you find them girls from? Cuba? Do they even speak English?" asked Bells. "Hell no. Dominican Republic. I like my Spanish women black. And they are not girls. Shit. They are 19 years old. That's a grown-ass woman in their country and America. Plus, you know I always like them exotic bitches. That good hair and their big culo was always my weakness. I also save a ton of money by not having to buy hair weave," said the otherwise holy Reverend as he laughed. "Oh, you speak Spanish now? Niggas, some beautiful sisters here in America with good hair and big culo too. And them bitches wear hair weaves too. You were just trying to avoid them sisters at the beauty shop from getting in your ass over them Dominican bitches. Do you know those motherfuckers do not even think they are black? Those two bitches you got are darker than us. Man, they even treat Haitians like shit on their island. But fuck all that. Where the fucking money at, fool? Nigga, we treat Haitians like shit over here too, countered Albright. I will go get your money, just let me go into the parlor and get it from the safe real quick. Oh, you must think I'm stupid. I'm going with you to get mines, commented Bells. Both men entered the parlor and Reverend Albright opened the safe, which was stacked with money and jewelry. Bells started grabbing all the money and stuffing it in a trash bag taken from the room. The smile on the Reverend's face quickly disappeared and was replaced by a stone look as he saw all his belongings being taken from him while he watched helplessly. The Reverend knew that this was not the end of Bells' torment and that he needed to figure out a way to get rid of Bells before he stripped away everything the Reverend had built up over the years in his attempt to reinvent himself. I wonder if anyone else knows that this motherfucker Bells is over at my place, thought the Reverend to himself. Bells finally said, "This is a good start, Rev. And since you drove me out here in the damn boondocks, I'm taking those car keys to that Bentley outside too, you dig?" With a look of reluctance on his face, the Reverend gave the keys to his luxury car. Bells smiled as he walked out of the estate, and the Reverend watched him drive off his property with disdain in his eyes. As soon as Bells was off the estate, the Reverend made a call. "Hey man, guess who was at my church during the community peace rally for unity?" "No, it was Bells. How the hell did that nigga get out of prison?" "You said that he would never see the light of day out here. But the nigga is here in my house, taking my money, jewelry, and the new car. Shit, I'm glad he did not take my babies. Now what are you gonna do about this?" "What do you mean it's not your problem? If I have a problem, then motherfucker believe that you got a big ass problem too. We are tied to the hip." "Okay. Now please give me another car." "Yeah, the same type, but this time a convertible. I need to show that motherfucker he did not stop shit. But on some real talk, we need to take care of the situation before it gets out of hand." "All right. I'll see you there. But I need the car tomorrow, you hear me?" "All right. Thank you."
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and means a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us, so be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
He worked so hard to ensure we had a great life, but now he's gone. We miss him so much. One day our granddaughter won't remember him or how wonderful he was. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him.
Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 5. Out for Blood. The tension between the two rival gangs was at an all-time high. The Crips had recently tried to assassinate OG Mims on his own turf, which meant war. OG Mims was aware that this war was bad for his business, as the police would become forced to make some arrests. But he could not care less, as he could not let his desire for revenge go. Another huge motivating factor behind OG Mims being hell-bent on waging a war against the Crips was Loco Blue. Loco got his girl pregnant and married her, all while OG Mims was in prison. This was unacceptable, and now OG Mims was out for blood. Little niggas, listen up. That shit at the church was only the beginning. This is not no game. We are not going to stop until that bitch-ass Loco Blue is dead. Now, how the fuck did my niggas miss killing his ass in that car? That damn car was parked. That's the easiest kill in the world. And Ricky, where the fuck was you? You supposed to be in there with the baby OGs to make sure that nigga was dead. Oh man, I told them little motherfuckers to wait until the nigga left the parking lot of the church. We could have killed his ass at the red light. But no, these niggas want to be super thugs and do their own thing. Shit, that nigga Loco as good as dead. Just let me pick my own crew to drop that fool, said Ricky with a look of determination on his face. Nigga, now you are running shit? At least these little niggas have heart. They went in there to handle their business. OG Men slapped Ricky on the face in front of the whole gang as he spoke. Plus, why in the hell would I give my crew to you? Shit, you still owe me money, fool. Matter of fact, you little niggas beat this nigga ass now, and don't stop till I tell you to stop. Before Ricky could even come to his own defense, all the younger members of the Bloods were already beating down on him with determination. All the young Bloods were eager to win over OG Mims and followed all his orders, something Ricky was quite aware of and was now on the receiving end. Soon, Ricky was left alone to salvage his own wounds. Using his last reserve, Ricky decided to limp his way over to his girlfriend Lisa Chin for help. Lisa was the daughter of Mr. Chin, the owner of a local restaurant, and contrary to Lisa's knowledge, the largest supplier of guns in the neighborhood. As Ricky approached the back door to the kitchen of the restaurant, Lisa just happened to be throwing out the trash from the kitchen. She could not believe how bad Ricky's injuries were and the amount of blood he had lost. She quickly grabbed the back door and closed it before anyone could see Ricky in that state.
What the fuck happened to you? You look worse than Rodney King after the cops kicked his ass. Hurry up and get inside before someone sees you.
Those motherfuckers jumped me. It wasn't even my fault, said Ricky as he was being helped into the kitchen by Lisa.
What wasn't your fault? And who jumped you? Who do you owe money to this time? Because I do not have any more money to give you. Shit, you're my baby daddy, and I'm taking care of your dumb ass.
Bitch, don't make me slap the shit out of you, warned Ricky. It's not about the money this time. My gang jumped on me because of them little blood niggas. They fucked up the hit on Loco Blue. Now OG thinks it's my fault. I told them motherfuckers to wait until he left the church parking lot. But no, they had to jump the gun and didn't even kill the motherfucker.
What? That was your stupid set that did the shooting at the church yesterday? Your gang of niggas truly stupid. Who the fuck shoots up a church? Like my father always says, you don't have to kill niggas. Wait long enough and they will kill themselves,
said Lisa as she tried to cover up Ricky's bleeding arm. Bitch, fuck you and your daddy, shouted Ricky. Just get me to the hospital before I bleed to death, bitch.
Okay, let us get you in the car. But don't bleed all over my new car. My daddy just got me this new car. Now look who's acting like a bitch. I mean, boo,
gloated Lisa. Don't you mean the hood got you this car? We both know he sells more guns than fried rice in this bitch. Shit, are you gonna let your fiancé die like this? All beaten up and shit? Lisa escorted Ricky into her new car, parked behind the kitchen, and got into the driver's seat.
Don't worry about what the fuck my father does for money. At least he's not getting his ass kicked for owing niggas money. Now, let's get your ass to the hospital before you go into a coma.
As the couple began to drive off towards the hospital to repair Ricky's wounds, they did not notice Lisa's father, Mr. Chin, watching them from the restaurant's back door window. Mr. Chin hated Ricky and his relationship with his daughter, but the couple did give him a grandson. Plus, Ricky's gang, the Bloods, were the largest customers for guns in the town. The news of the gang war was heating up the town. Mr. Chin was due to make a lot of money. However, he was still adamant about keeping a close eye on Ricky. Mr. Chin never trusted any of the black community members, especially a gangbanger with a loudmouth. Meanwhile, Thomas became more and more anxious to solve Jamal Blue's murder mystery. He had been trying to get a hold of Ricky for days since the church shooting, but with no response. This pissed Thomas off and made him realize that to solve this investigation, he would have to get his own hands dirty, which led him to conclude that no man in this town had clean hands. At the rate of the murders occurring in this town, the Williams family would remain wealthy for years to come. The funeral home seemed like the only place for Thomas to visit after all these tragedies had taken place. Thomas entered the funeral home from the side entrance door and was suddenly taken aback by a heated argument taking place in the office between his grandfather and the same mysterious man from the community rally. Thomas decided to hide behind the door of the office and eavesdrop on the conversation. Who the fuck is you to tell me what I can and cannot do in this town? Oh, how soon have you forgotten that we were both partners in this shit? Out of your sight and mine? Isn't that right, Mark? Asked the stranger. That's right. I'm telling you to leave Reverend Albright alone for good. Now the things you took from him, you can have it all, including the new car, but no more, said Mark while he banged his fist on the table. So that's how it is after I did all that motherfucking time in prison. Who the fuck your dumb ass thinks you're talking to? Countered the stranger. Understand this, shouted Mark. Either you're at the table to eat, or you're on the menu to be served. The choice will always be yours to make, but believe me, I will not be saying this to you again. Now explain to me, how the hell did you get out of jail? Last time I checked, life in prison meant just that, life. Have you heard of clemency, old man? The governor reduced the penalties of my crime. It did not completely remove the conviction from my record, but with an aggressive attorney in my corner to fight for what is right, I'm finally a free man. Shit, I guess you're the luckiest man from prison. I thought we had another 15 years before you were even up for parole, stated Mark. See, that's what you get for thinking, shouted the stranger. I always found it strange that the attorney you provided me was only able to get my prison sentence reduced from 33 to 23 years. I met plenty of guys in prison that committed the same crime and only had to serve 10 or fewer years. That shit made me wonder why the harsh sentence was only given to me. So I'm just going to ask you, man to man, did you have anything to do with me getting all that time in prison? Mark was just as angry. Don't you mean man to boy? Now why would I have anything to do with your sentence? Hell, the lawyer I provided for you got your sentence reduced 10 years, did he not? Plus, you put yourself in that situation. I usually don't concern myself with your people's problems. So consider that my last favor. Favor? Why, you dirty mother... Yo, who's standing in the corner watching us? Thomas, thinking quick, decided to reveal himself by coming out of the dark. Excuse me. I didn't want to disturb you gentlemen while you were talking. Both men stared at Thomas with an angry look on their faces as they realized their conversation was no longer private. How do you do, sir? I'm Thomas, said Thomas with a friendly look on his face. At least someone still has manners in this place. I'm Bells, and you must be Mary's son. How do you know my mother? Said Thomas. Bells was about to reply, but was rudely cut off by Mark. Mr. Bells was just leaving. Thomas, could you find your mother? We need to start the preparation for the bodies from the church rally. Yes, sir. I'll find her for you. Thomas walked out of the men's sight and quickly repositioned himself to remain hidden while listening to the conversation the two men were having. I think it's time for you to leave. But remember that Reverend Albright is off limits to you. Keep the car, money, and jewelry as welcome home gifts. But no more from him. You got that? Advised Mark. Welcome home gifts, smeared Bells. Shit, I'm just getting started with taking what's mine, cuz. Well, with talk like that, it seems my business is going to increase around here, said Mark sarcastically. Just like you people to profit from our misery, said Bells as he got off his seat and started walking out. When Bells got into his Bentley and drove off, Thomas realized that Bells was troubled by the look on his face. He also realized that his grandfather and Bells had a past. Nevertheless, the only thing Thomas could think about now was getting in contact with Ricky. Meanwhile, Ricky and Lisa were leaving the hospital after getting Ricky checked out. Ricky had been beaten brutally, but had miraculously suffered no internal damage or broken bones. He was pissed off and ready for revenge. Lisa tried to calm him down before he decided to go do something stupid and cost his own life or her father's business in the process. See, I told you, baby. Those motherfuckers couldn't break me. It took 8 niggas to jump me, and I'm still here. I'm built for this shit, baby. Now it's my turn to get it cracking, boasted Ricky.
Nigga, please. Where was that talk when you were crying like a little bitch for my help? Lisa, please. Help me. Baby, get me to a hospital before I die,
said Lisa in a condescending tone.
You don't remember that shit? Hell, it happened today. So, shut the fuck up with all that bullshit you talking about being built for this thug life and shit.
Bitch, wasn't nobody crying and shit. I mean, the nigga was hurt, but I held my ground. Fuck you. Mind your damn business, commented Ricky.
Yeah. All I know is you better not try and hit me again after you let them little niggas kick your ass. And fuck you too,
said Lisa. Bitch, I said it was 10 of them, shouted Ricky.
Wait, at first there was 8, now there are 10 of them. Nigga, make up your damn mind,
laughed Lisa. 8, 10, whatever the fuck. There were a lot of them, but I remember every one of them. They asses are mine one way or another, promised Ricky. As the couple drove down the road, suddenly Ricky's phone started ringing. It was Thomas, who had been trying to get a hold of Ricky all day. Ricky did not feel like talking to Thomas, but he realized that he owed Thomas for all his favors. Therefore, he answered the call. Ricky, where the hell have you been? Do you know someone shot up the community rally at the church today? Why haven't you answered any of my calls? Where are you? We need to meet. Slow down, nigga. What's up with the 50 million questions? I just got out of the hospital, stated Ricky. Hospital? What happened to you? You okay? Asked Thomas. As the two of them talked over the phone, Lisa tried to listen in on the conversation. Ricky, noticing what she was doing, tried to prevent her from listening. Lisa, don't do that shit. Bitch, drive and mind your business. Stop being nosy and shit, said Ricky as he refocused on his conversation with Thomas. Listen, I can't talk now. Let's meet at the same place we met the last time. All right, I'll see you there tonight at 5 a.m. again? 5 a.m., you got it.
Who the hell is that?
Inquired Lisa.
How are you going to see somebody at 5 a.m.? It is no bitch. Shit, she could have brought your black ass to the hospital.
Stop trying to start shit. I wasn't talking to no woman. That was a friend who was just concerned about me. You know, some people do find me friendly.
Motherfucker, you haven't ever been friendly with your sneaky black ass.
Shit, you love my black ass though, said Ricky with a smirk on his face.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist us by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and mean a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us. So be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
Ever since he came into our lives, he became one of the family. But now he's gone. Time goes by so fast, I wonder if she'll remember him as she grows older without him. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him. Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 6. A Villainous Plan. Thomas made his way over to the same spot he met Ricky last time at 5 a.m. When Ricky showed up, his condition surprised Thomas. What the fuck happened to you? It looked like you have been hit by a Mack truck in the face. Did your woman kick your ass again? What did you do to deserve that ass whooping? No shit, but it wasn't Lisa this time. But I'll take care of the motherfucker who had this done to me. Fuck, Ricky, who did this to you? Asked Thomas with a look of surprise on his face. The same motherfucker who killed that kid at the baseball field. I got some information for you that's going to help you with your story. After hearing these words come out of Ricky's mouth, Thomas was intrigued and finally felt like he was closer than ever to uncovering the truth. Well, I'm listening, Thomas said. It was that punk motherfucker OG Mims. He's behind the kid's death. He ordered the shooting and told them little niggas in my gang to beat me up. Blood gang my ass. I thought we was family. But after that shit, I got no love or loyalty for any of them niggas, explained Ricky. Why would OG Mims want to kill a little kid during a baseball game? Wouldn't it be easier to kill the kid on the way to school or something? Inquired Thomas. Ricky replied with a disappointed look on his face. There you go again, thinking like a white person. The reason behind all this shit is that bitch Dee Dee. Hell, isn't it always a woman or money? Here is something you didn't know. The kid's mother, Dee Dee, and OG Mims was lovers before that nigga went to prison. They were high school sweethearts and were thinking about marriage. At the time, Loco Blue and that nigga was best buds. Them niggas grew up together, played youth basketball and everything. At this point, Thomas was starting to connect the dots and realized that this interpretation of the story matched that of Dee Dee and Loco's when they accidentally slipped the information about the red car and the Bloods while talking to Thomas. Let me guess. Loco Blue steals OG's girl while OG was in prison, summarized Thomas. Damn right. He was supposed to be just the lookout for her, just making sure she had money. But they started fucking, and word got back to OG Mims, and that nigga lost his damn mind. He started attacking dudes in prison for no reason because of Dee Dee's betrayal. He even joined the Blood gang while in prison. Hell, he got more time in prison for all the charges he obtained for being violent. So that nigga's 5-year sentence turned into 10 years. Word eventually got back to Loco Blue, so to protect himself, he joined the Crip gang and married Dee Dee, with whom he had 2 kids. That shit pissed off OG Mims even more once he got out of jail. That dude has been determined ever since to destroy that Blue family. He made that shit his #1 priority when he got out of prison. Well, I can understand his pain, noted Thomas, but killing an innocent child is too far. Even for the coolest gangbanger. Ricky, you sure he did this shit, or you just want to get your revenge because he had you beat up? Hell yeah, I'm sure. Who else would have done this shit? That motherfucker wanted the entire family dead. We told him to blame the bitch and Loco Blue, not the damn kids. But that nigga never listens to anyone. So that motherfucker killed the kid in cold blood all over some bitch, insisted Ricky. After hearing all this, Thomas started to see how what Ricky was saying could be possible. The Bloods were very hostile towards the Crips, and it only made sense that the leaders of both gangs had a conflict with each other that further provoked such a response on behalf of their gangs. Gang wars were an issue that this small town had been dealing with for a long time. But if what Ricky was saying was true, things were about to get a whole lot more violent in the neighborhood. Ricky, your theory makes sense, but we need proof. I will do some more research and contact you tomorrow. Until then, try not to get put in the hospital again, advised Thomas. Nigga, the only motherfucker getting put in the hospital bed is that nigga OG Mims. I'm going to make sure he pays for what he did to me, promised Ricky. Thomas took whatever Ricky said with a grain of salt and decided to meet Ricky the next day. This was the biggest lead Thomas had been able to get his hands on since the tragedy had taken place. However, Thomas was still not sure if he could completely trust Ricky's statement. He realized that Ricky wanted revenge for the serious beating he received from his fellow gang members because of OG Mims' orders. Something Ricky was clearly not taking too well. However, Thomas could not deny the validity behind what Ricky was saying and was compelled to dig deeper to get closer to the truth. Later that day, Ricky, who was still injured, decided to track down Loco Blue outside of his home so he could break the news to him as well. The Blue neighborhood was on the west side of town and was known as a no-go zone for the Bloods. The neighborhood was constantly guarded by the Crip gang members and was one of the most dangerous areas within the little southern town. The Crips lived within proximity of each other, and for a Blood to be roaming their streets, it was suicide. However, Ricky was determined to rile up Loco Blue by giving him the same information he gave Thomas. This time, the only difference was he had a personal stake behind it and was willing to take the risk. Ricky spotted Loco Blue while trying to sneak past a couple of Crips sitting in their car listening to rap music. Loco was walking his pit bull dogs, which made things even more nerve-wracking for Ricky. He attempted to approach Loco cautiously with his hands in the air. Ricky was clearly willing to risk his life as he approached the growling dogs that protected Loco, but he wanted to show Loco that he meant no threat towards him. Look, man, calm your damn dogs down. I didn't come over here risking my life to start some shit, shouted Ricky. The dogs began barking while trying to break off the metal chains that Loco was holding on to. Ricky could tell that the 2 dogs would rip him apart if it was not for Loco holding them back, and he was not about to take that for granted. I need you to hear me out. I got some information that you may find important. Normally I wouldn't be anywhere near the Blue neighborhood, but I think you need to know who killed your son and shot up that peace rally you were at, said Ricky with a look of fear on his face. Then who, cuz? Spit that shit out, you snitch ass nigga. You better make it quick before I let my dogs loose on your bitch ass, taunted Loco as he calmed his dogs down. Alright, listen, stumbled Ricky. It was your old homeboy, OG Mims. That motherfucker killed your son and was trying to kill you and your lady at the church the other day. The expression on Loco's face remained angry, but the only difference now was that tears started falling from his eyes. He was extremely pissed off and started to visualize himself shooting OG Mims repeatedly. I think you needed to know that shit, because I've done a lot of fucked up shit, but killing kids, that shit isn't for me, said Ricky to save face. So you mean to tell me that he killed my son because his bitch chose me? That motherfucker was gone for 10 years. What the fuck was she supposed to do? Wait for his dumb ass? Do not worry. That nigga's a walking dead man, cuz. Now get the fuck out of my face and my neighborhood before the little homies see your bitch ass. I won't be able to stop them from killing you just to impress me, warned Loco. Ricky, sensing the danger growing, quickly walked away with a smile on his face. He knew that OG Mims would soon be dead, and he could finally get his revenge. Loco, on the other hand, watched Ricky leave with a disgusted look on his face. There was one thing he hated more than anything else on earth, and it was a damn snitch. It was then Loco decided to kill both Ricky and OG Mims. He decided to gather all the strongest members of the Crips he had in the gang hideout. He was determined to take down OG Mims once and for all, and that snitch Ricky as well. The gang hideout was a warehouse located within the Blue neighborhood. It was set up by Loco when he came into power as a place where all the Crips could have meetings. It was where the Crips stocked a large portion of their ammunition and their money. Consequently, it was a highly monitored and secured facility. Loco Blue addressed the members. All right, listen up, little niggas. I just got told who shot my little boy in cold blood. And as we were speculating earlier, it was that nigga OG. My suspicion was right, as always. The gang members started to shout and chant as soon as they heard what Loco had said and became riled up. Most of the members were teens and young adults who looked up to Loco and wanted nothing else than to impress him with their grit and dedication to him. He continued, settle down. That scum-ass nigga OG will get what's coming to him. We get his ass at the crack of dawn after he has done talking to them dirty-ass cops. He took my baby boy from me, and now I'm going to take his motherfucking life away. We ride at dawn. Make sure you're all strapped.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and means a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us, so be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
He worked so hard to ensure we had a great life, but now he's gone. We miss him so much. One day our granddaughter won't remember him or how wonderful he was. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him.
Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 7. Trouble in the Waters. Today was the day OG Mims would finally meet his end by the hands of Loco Blue for what he did to Jamal Blue. Loco was filled with anger and was driven by the desire for revenge. He was determined to take out OG Mims at whatever cost. As planned earlier, Loco and his gang decided to drive over to the Blood neighborhood right at the crack of dawn, looking for OG Mims. According to the information Loco had collected, OG Mims was supposed to be meeting up with the corrupt police officers at this time of day, and he knew that this was the right time to end OG's life since most of the Blood gang members of OG Mims were asleep. Upon driving up to the Blood neighborhood in his discreetly red-colored Cadillac, Loco recognized the unmarked police car standing at the street corner, while OG Mims was standing at the right window talking to the cops. Wait up, little homie. We're gonna stop here for a second. Let them dirty-ass cops pass before we go in and clip that fool OG Mims, directed Loco. After the Crips had patiently waited for 3 minutes, the cops finally decided to pull away with their money, leaving OG Mims behind alone and defenseless against Loco and the gang of Crips eager to prove themselves to Loco. Loco ordered his men to speed up as they approached OG Mims, who was now crossing the street to get to his crib. The car that led the way housed Loco himself in the passenger seat and was now on the way to run over OG Mims. The car sped up and hit OG Mims, who was completely caught off guard since he thought the car belonged to one of his gang members due to its red color. OG Mims fell to the ground and screamed in pain and agony. Loco had a look of disgust and hatred on his face as he ordered his driver to reverse the red Cadillac and hit OG Mims again. The driver did as he was ordered, but this time, OG Mims laid motionless on the street. "Stop!" yelled Loco to his driver as he noticed that OG Mims was now downed. Loco got out of his car with his 2 pit bulls that were barking ferociously at OG Mims' motionless body, and suddenly let go of the chains that held the pit bulls back from tearing up OG Mims' body. "Get his ass, boys," commanded Loco. The dogs sprinted towards OG Mims and began to tear his limbs apart by pulling them and biting at them. As the dogs vandalized OG Mims' body, Loco began to approach OG's body with his Glock in his hand. Upon reaching OG Mims' body, Loco was surprised that he was still alive and breathing. "You're a stupid motherfucker. You thought I would let you get away with killing my son?" said Loco as he shot OG Mims in the stomach, which made OG Mims scream in pain. With his last breath, Mims whispered, "Fuck you, punk-ass nigga. I hate you and that fucking family of yours. I will see you in..." Before Mims could complete what he was about to say, Loco had already put a bullet straight through his head and was now standing above him, staring at his motionless body with contempt in his eyes. As Loco stood in the middle of the street, having shot the Bloods' leader, he noticed that people from the neighborhood started to come out of their houses with looks of disbelief on their faces. This gave Loco an incentive to walk back towards his car as slowly as possible so that everyone knew who killed OG Mims at the end of the day. Loco approached his car, and just before he entered his car, he turned around and yelled to the increasingly large crowd, "Tell that snitch-ass nigga Ricky I said thank you for the information." Then, Loco got into the car and they drove off. He smiled as he got out of Blood territory because he knew that Ricky would be taken care of by his own, as he would be blamed for Mims' death. The Blood neighborhood was now in a state of shock and disbelief as they stood over the motionless body of OG Mims. Ricky's action of disloyalty was sure to buy him back for what he had done, and his fate was now at the hands of the Blood gang members who were riled up to teach him a lesson. Snitching was the worst thing you could do if you were a part of a gang, and Richie had committed the worst crime of them all by giving out information that got the gang leader killed. Later in the afternoon, Thomas was driving when he heard about OG Mims' death on the police radio he had installed in his car. He was instantly shocked and decided to rush towards the scene of the crime. He thought to himself as he drove towards Blood territory that Ricky might be telling the truth after all, and now he wanted to become the first reporter to break the story of OG Mims' death. Upon arriving at the scene of the crime, Thomas recognized one of the officers present on site. It was Officer Kelly, who worked part-time at Thomas's family's funeral home business, so Thomas decided to approach him with all his questions. "Excuse me, officer, what happened here?" "The usual shit. Niggas killing each other. However, this one looks like an assassination rather than a simple murder. His body looks like it was run over by a vehicle a couple times before being shot to death. The poor bastard was also bitten several times by what looks like dog bite marks," said Officer Kelly with his arms crossed across his chest. "That sounds a little bit extreme, don't you think?" questioned Thomas. "Yeah, he must have really pissed someone off," agreed Officer Kelly. "Any suspects, clues, or leads uncovered during the investigation?" asked Thomas as he pulled out his notepad. "Investigation? Please, we are not looking to solve this case. Trust me, this type of shit always works itself out in the end. We will just let them kill each other and collect the bodies. Besides, it's not like any whites got killed," noted Officer Kelly with an unbothered look on his face. The words that came out of Officer Kelly's mouth did not surprise Thomas, but they did disappoint him. Thomas knew that his little southern town's law and order were corrupt, and the demise of little boys like Jamal Blue was never going to be of any concern to the police. "So, you are saying, on the record, that if the person killed here today was white, the case would be solved?" inquired Thomas. Nothing I say to you was on the record. Do I make myself clear? Now get behind the yellow tape. No more questions, said Officer Kelly as he escorted Thomas behind the yellow tape. Well, thank you, officer. I'm sure I'll see you at the funeral, considering the fact you work for my family part-time, pointed out Thomas. Yeah, I'll see you there, smartass, replied Officer Kelly. Thomas made his way back into the car after taking a couple of pictures. And as he sat by himself, he realized how drastically things were about to change. The killing of OG Mims was a start to a bloody gang war, and Thomas had become convinced the cycle of violence was only just beginning. Later that evening, Ricky, who was at his house, watching television, found out about OG Mims' death on a local news channel. This information made Ricky happy and content, as he had now taken his revenge. Ricky decided to give Thomas a call to brag about the valuable information that he had provided him. What did I tell you, nigga? That old motherfucker had it coming, said Ricky in an excited pitch. Yeah, I guess you were right, but I'm afraid this is only a start for the worst things to come, answered Thomas. Who cares about that? Cannot stop niggas from killing each other. Now listen, I got more information for you. This time it's about guns and why they're in these young bloods' hands. Meet me at Mr. Chin's restaurant tomorrow afternoon. All right, I'll see you there, agreed Thomas. The day after killing OG Mims, Ricky was on his way towards Mr. Chin's restaurant. Ricky was walking along the back alley where he was supposed to meet Thomas when suddenly a red car pulled up beside him with blood gang members in it, pointing their guns at Ricky. Ricky noticed the car and attempted to make a run for it, but soon figured out it was too late. The vehicle driver ordered one of the gang members in the car to get out and grab Ricky before he could run away. Two blood members got out of the car and grabbed Ricky before he could get away, and one of them opened the trunk of the car and helped push Ricky into it. Ricky was left defenseless as he was mobbed by Bloods, who were now driving off towards the industrial section of town with Ricky in their car's trunk. Ricky tried to resist and scream for help as he looked around for a latch to open the trunk, but his actions were of no use. He could feel the car going over a railroad track at a high speed, which made him realize he was far away from Mr. Chin's restaurant. You a dead man, Ricky! You snitch-ass nigga! Said one of the members present in the car. Ricky finally realized that Local Blue had sold him out, and was now regretting his decision to tell him anything in the first place. Ricky knew that the only way he can get out and escape this predicament was if he fought off whoever opened the trunk door and made a run for it as quick as he possibly could. The car stopped in the middle of an abandoned warehouse, and there were torture devices set up in place for Ricky's arrival. The Bloods expected Ricky to put up a fight once they would open the trunk, so they shot 2 bullets in the trunk before opening it, injuring Ricky in the leg and knee. This made Ricky scream in agony, but he knew he had no way out of the situation and had to put up a fight regardless. What the fuck you motherfuckers doing? Aren't we all Bloods? You motherfuckers kidnap me and shoot me? What did I do? Yelled Ricky as he got pulled out of the trunk of the car by Blood gang members. You know what you did, Blood. You got OG Mims killed. Everyone knows it was you that told that nigga Loco Blue that OG Mims killed his son. Ain't no point in getting scared now, you snitch. Own what you did. You're dying anyway, said the gang member who commanded other gang members to pull Ricky out of the trunk. I would never do that shit. I put that on my mama. You gonna believe a punk-ass crip over a Blood? Hell, I jumped in half of you niggas in the gang. Don't believe this bullshit, pledged Ricky, who was now sweating heavily. Nigga, shut the fuck up. You cannot talk your way out of this shit. You are dying today, and slowly at that, nigga. Hang his ass up over there off the steel beam with them chains. It's time to cut this nigga up, instructed the apparent leader. The Blood members did as they were ordered and hung Ricky by his arms, after which they duct taped his feet together so he could not move. This was the end, and Ricky knew there was nothing he could do anymore to dissuade the Bloods. We're not gonna waste our time talking to this punk-ass bitch. Take his pants down, said the Blood lead member as he looked at Ricky with anger in his eyes. What the fuck? Do not do this. I got a kid. I got a son. Please do not do this. You are making a mistake, cried Ricky as he tried to beg for his life. Without any hesitation, one of the gang members pulls down Ricky's pants and takes out a long and sharp knife off the table and cuts off Ricky's penis. This makes Ricky scream with pain as he starts to bleed heavily. Ricky's begging intensifies as he finally asks them to kill him rather than torturing him in this fashion. However, instead of listening to Ricky, the gang member repeatedly stabs him in the chest. Such a horrific showcase of violence made some of the younger gang members sick by seeing all the blood that was being spilled. The leader of the kidnapping notices this and yells, "What the fuck you niggas scared of? That motherfucker got OG Mims smoked. He's got to suffer." Now this is what's gonna happen. Everybody better pull out their guns and shoot this punk-ass bitch. And I mean everybody shoots him. This way, all of us is gonna have some blood on our hands. So if any of you smart motherfuckers think about snitching, you're going to jail along with me. Suddenly, all the gang members started to shoot at Ricky one at a time. Ricky was dead by the third shot, but everyone had to shoot him in fear of retaliation. Once Ricky was bombarded by bullets, his body was taken down and wrapped up in a large plastic body bag. The Bloods decided to drive up to Mr. Chin's restaurant and drop Ricky's body out of a moving car. As soon as they dropped Ricky's body and drove off with screeching tires, Lisa, who was currently working at the restaurant with her father, noticed what happened and decided to approach the bag once the coast was clear without knowing what she was about to discover.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist us by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and mean a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us. So be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
Ever since he came into our lives, he became one of the family. But now he's gone. Time goes by so fast, I wonder if she'll remember him as she grows older without him. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him. Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 8. Cruel Intentions. It was late at night, and Lisa was sweeping the sidewalk in front of her family business. It was closing time, so things had already slowed down, giving Lisa a chance to take a breath and clean up. She started to go back into the restaurant to close when suddenly she heard screeching tires behind her. Lisa was used to people driving recklessly at this time of night, so she did not give it a second thought. That soon changed when she heard a loud thud on the street behind her. When Lisa looked back, she noticed that a large bag that seemed like a body bag had been dropped by a couple of gang members in a red car as they rushed off. Lisa assumed these were Bloods and quickly ran inside and hid behind the reception counter in the restaurant. Once she felt the coast was clear, she decided to get up and investigate from a safe distance. Lisa knew better than to approach something that was dropped by a couple of gangbangers, but soon her curiosity got the best of her. She could not locate her father anywhere, so she decided to look inside of the bag herself since there was no one in the street. Lisa approached the bag with caution. The bag was gray and it looked like it had been handled very roughly. However, the size of the bag indicated that something large was resting within it, which made Lisa fear the possibility of discovering a body in the bag. This suspicion started to creep up even more as Lisa noticed bloodstains on the bag as she got closer. Since she was still wearing her cleaning gloves, she lifted the plastic covering the bag's opening. She immediately went into a state of shock which took her by storm.
Ricky! Oh my God, Rick! No, no, no!
Cried Lisa as she fell back on her hip in fear and shock. Lisa started to crawl away from the bag in a hurry, with tears rolling down her eyes and goosebumps on her skin. She felt broken and isolated. She got up and decided to run over to her father's office, located inside the restaurant, so that she can get his gun. This seemed like the only right thing to do, as she was not sure if the gang members that dropped Ricky's body would return or not. Mr. Chin's office was very different from that of an average restaurant owner. It was almost as if the restaurant was a cover-up to protect something hidden. She made her way through the lobby, sobbing and screaming Ricky's name. Lisa started to call out Mr. Chin's name, but her call went unheeded multiple times. Upon arriving at her father's office, Lisa went straight for the central drawer of her father's desk, as that is where he kept his Glock. Lisa approached the drawer and opened it with a yank. She had found what she came there for, the Glock. Suddenly, her occupied focus was soon taken over by the sight of red bandanas and a key to a Buick. She thought this was strange because the Bloods drove Buicks the most in their neighborhood and wore red as their gang color. All of this did not seem like a coincidence to her, and for a second she forgot what had just happened to Ricky, as she held up the red bandana and the Glock in her hand. Lisa was shocked at what she was seeing. How could the Bloods be associated with her father? Who did the keys belong to? Was Ricky telling the truth when he said that Mr. Chin was a weapons dealer? All these questions started to make Lisa's head hurt as she struggled to make sense of everything that was happening to her all at once. As Lisa stood there motionless and shocked, in came Mr. Chin with headphones on, listening to his recorded Reverend Albright sermons. When Mr. Chin saw what Lisa was holding in her hand, his expression changed from neutral to angry, and he was just about to say something when he was suddenly interrupted by his daughter's cries.
Father, it's Ricky. He's dead. Those dirty-ass Bloods killed my baby's father and dropped his body in front of the restaurant,
cried Lisa, who had momentarily forgotten what she had possibly discovered about her father. What the fuck do you mean Ricky's dead body is in the front of my restaurant? Asked Mr. Chin, with a look of disbelief on his face as he threw his headphones off to the side. We got to move his body into the freezer now, before somebody comes sniffing around, said Mr. Chin as he rushed out towards the main entrance, followed by Lisa, who was still confused and scared. As Lisa followed her father, she suddenly got reminded of what she had in her hands. And as she looked at the red bandanas, she did not hesitate to ask her father right then and there about what all this was about.
Wait, tell me why you got these red bandanas in your desk drawer. And who do these car keys belong to?
Asked Lisa as she stared at her father, waiting for an answer. Not now, Lisa. I will explain after we clean up your boyfriend's blood from in front of the restaurant, so it looks like nothing happened. We don't need that sort of attention around this neighborhood.
You mean my fiancé, father?
Shouted Lisa angrily. Both father and daughter approached the body bag with cleaning gloves on and a bleach solution at hand to clean the bloodstains off the road. Mr. Chin attempted to lift the body on his own but failed. Shit, come on you black motherfucker, he complained.
Father, how dare you? That is my baby daddy,
cried Lisa. Dead baby daddy. Now go and get the cart from the back, now. Lisa did as she was told and ran over to the back of the restaurant, sobbing and wailing. Finally, when Lisa brought the trolley over to the restaurant's front, both she and Mr. Chin lifted Ricky's dead body and placed it into the trolley with incredible difficulty. After putting Ricky's body into the cart, Lisa pushed it towards the restaurant kitchen while her father made sure to rub bleach all over the residual bloodstains left on the street. Lisa was now losing control as she screamed and cried in agony over her boyfriend's demise.
Ricky, no! Please get up, you asshole! How could you do this to me?
Shut up! Now's not the time to be making a scene. Control yourself, admonished Mr. Chin as he came in rushing with an empty bottle of bleach in his hand. Open that freezer door and help me hide this shit before we get into more trouble. Lisa, who was now completely drained of her energy, somehow managed to help her father lift Ricky's body and place it into the freezer, all while having the worst panic attack she had ever had in her life. Now that things had calmed down a bit, and the coast seemed clear to Mr. Chin, both he and Lisa, who was on her knees in disbelief, finally took a breath.
Father, tell me the truth. What the hell is going on here? I know you're not gangbanging, so why the hell do you have those bandanas on your desk?
Damn it, Lisa. You want to know the truth? Fine. Here it is. I shot up that youth baseball game, he quietly stated. As soon as Lisa heard those words come out of her father's mouth, she was floored. She now realized that the men in her life had been lying to her all this time.
What? Are you fucking serious, Father? Why? Why the fuck?
She pleaded. To start the damn gang war, that's why, he shouted. All of this did not make any sense to Lisa, who always looked up to her father as a clean Chinese immigrant that loved to serve his neighborhood and loved to attend the Sunday church.
Why do you need to start a goddamn gang war? Shit, I do not believe you're the one that killed that little boy. This is so fucked up. You have no reason to start a damn gang war. We sell food here, Father. That is it. He was just a boy. That could have been your grandson,
said Lisa as she cried her eyes out. Mr. Chin walked over into his office and opened the secret compartment located behind his favorite painting of Jesus he never allowed Lisa to touch. Lisa was shocked at what was shown to her by her father.
Guns? You got so many guns? How? Why?
Asked Lisa with a perplexed look on her face. Baby, we don't just serve food. We also sell guns. How do you think we became rich in this broke-ass neighborhood? How? By selling fried rice? Said Mr. Chin as he kicked an old rice bowl banner resting next to his feet. We have sold guns in this community ever since those gangs arrived here. You thought we chose this part of town to start a goddamn restaurant business? Or because we love black people? Shit. I chose this area because niggas love to spend their money as soon as they get some. Hell, we own this Chinese restaurant, the gas station, nail salon, and the hair care product store. All of which are cover-ups, baby. Niggers get paid on Friday, and by Saturday night, they are broke. I do not give a damn about this community. I just want their money. Lisa, who was listening in disbelief, finally decided to snap back into reality and confront her father.
But Ricky is dead. He was my baby's daddy. Your grandson's father's in a plastic bag in a damn freezer. And that means nothing to you? I loved him. Your heartless son of a bitch. I hate you,
yelled Lisa as she broke down in tears once again. Mr. Chin slapped Lisa across the face multiple times out of anger, and then demanded an apology for her disrespectful words. How dare you talk to your father that way? Now I tolerated you being around these niggas when you were small, but it was good for business. But your stupid ass had to go and have a baby with one of them. And my grandson, I hate picking him up or holding him. He will always be an outsider to me. He will be the least loved out of all my grandchildren, and you are to blame.
That's what you think about my baby? Then you no longer have a daughter. We will never be around you again. From this day forward, I have no father. Fuck this restaurant and fuck you! Sobered Lisa as she bawled her eyes out. After saying this, Lisa started to exit the restaurant as she no longer wanted to be anywhere near her corrupt father. But she was suddenly held back by Mr. Chin, who held on to her arm so that he could put in the final word. Fuck this restaurant? You need to remember I have 2 more daughters. Therefore, losing one will not bother me. As for your baby's father, his body will be disposed of tonight. And since you denounced yourself as my daughter, you can get it too. Don't be a snitch like your fiancé, he said. I may hate you forever, but I'll never break your family code. Now let me go this instant. I must tell my son that he has lost his father and his grandfather today. Lisa stormed out of the restaurant with a determination in her heart to never look back. She felt hatred in her heart towards her father, who no longer held the high standard he once had in her mind. She realized that things had drastically changed and that her worst fears of Ricky dying were now a reality that she had to deal with independently, as her father had also turned his back on her, making her vulnerable. Things were about to get turbulent and violent in this small southern town. OG Mims and Ricky's death was just the beginning of a chain of violent events that were about to take place. Reverend Albright was aware of OG Mims' death, but could not care less about what his community was going through. He was enjoying his time with his Latina lovers in his mansion when suddenly someone kicked the door of his bedroom open.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and means a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you'd like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us, so be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
He worked so hard to ensure we had a great life, but now he's gone. We miss him so much. One day our granddaughter won't remember him or how wonderful he was. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we could upload all our photos and videos of them.
Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 9. The Preacher's Demise. Over at Albright's mansion, things were getting heated in the Reverend's master bedroom early in the morning. The Reverend, who could not care less of what was happening to his neighborhood, was having a good time with his Latina lovers. He had taught the young ladies the importance of morning sex, or as he called it, the morning ride. Both knew if they wanted to stay in his good graces and remain in this country, they had to do anything this freaky man of the cloth desired. The Reverend had a lot of sexual fantasies built up in his mind, and he made the Latina women act out these fantasies that were elaborate and downright absurd at times. He had been living this lifestyle for so long that he no longer felt aroused by average intimacy and wanted to employ strange and unique ways to please himself. He demanded the young ladies address him as Papi, Spanish meaning father, and forced them to never look at other men in the eyes when they talked to them. He was a borderline pimp when it came to them. Most American women his age would not dare entertain his demands, which is why he acquired the young ladies from the Dominican Republic when they were still in their late teens. Hell, the way he saw it, their parents practically sold the girls to him for a small fee if he sent money to them on a regular basis. The Reverend agreed and fulfilled his part of the agreement until the girls reached 18 years old. After that, he refused to let the young ladies connect with their loved ones again. On the other hand, the women went along with whatever the Reverend wanted them to do, because he kept them in an environment of luxury. Both had expensive jewelry and drove cars that women from their country could not imagine driving. They shopped at designer clothing stores and had access to the best recreational drugs money could buy. As their time with the Reverend grew, both learned to enjoy his freaky demands and believed that they would have been doing the same things in their homeland with tourists for a far less luxurious lifestyle. Both remembered the words the Reverend frequently said to them while demanding some bizarre sex acts. "Since all women are going to fuck anyway, you might as well get paid for it or get something out of it that benefits you. And with me, babies, you are getting both. Now let's fuck." This was a classic pimp move. Just convinced both the women that they needed to please without thinking about the outcome. The words he spoke always made sense to both, and they did what was demanded of them every time. This time around, the Reverend wanted them to dress up as nurses. He ordered the outfits from the local adult store that was known for the privacy of its customers. The Reverend felt the store owner would not expose his secret life because he had spent thousands of dollars at the establishment over the years. This morning, both the women were going to aid the pretending Reverend in removing his clothing for a bath. Acting as a helpless patient, he would need both ladies to help him bathe properly. He began to smile as the young ladies approached him with lust in their eyes. As the role-playing session went on, the Reverend was soon inside the sheets with his two Latina lovers and was having the time of his life. They roughly removed his clothes as he was still pretending to be helpless. Having the feeling of lust take over him, he could no longer keep up the role-play act and started to have rough sex with one while the other assisted him. Suddenly, the door to his master bedroom slammed open with a force so great that a large picture hanging on the wall near it crashed to the ground, causing the glass from the picture frame to shatter. The person that stepped through the door made the Reverend's eyes open widely and jump with fear. It was Bells, and he had two guns in his hands. Bells had a look of disgust on his face. He thought to himself, "Just look at this sick motherfucker. With girls half his damn age, a fucking sex predator." On the other hand, the Reverend thought to himself that Bells was not going to leave his home empty-handed, and how the hell was he going to talk his way out of this shit? "Bells, what are you doing in my goddamn house? I gave you my money, your jewelry, and my damn car. What fucking else do you want from me? You coming in here with guns and shit? Hell, you scaring both my babies." The Reverend looked over to his Latina lovers angrily and continued, "Girls, didn't I tell you two to make sure those damn doors were locked?" He raised his hand to strike the young ladies and said, "Why the fuck am I taking care of you both when neither you bitches will listen? I will send both of you rice and beans eating bitches back to that third world shithole so fast that your fucking heads will still be spinning, wondering what the fuck just happened when you get there."
"We did lock the doors, Papi,"
said both the Latina ladies at the same time with their heads facing the ground, as they knew looking at Bells would cause a violent reaction from the already heated Reverend. Bitches, stop lying, he shouted. Then how the fuck did this nigga get in here? Bells had had enough of the fiasco and decided to put an end to this pointless banter. Listen to yourself, yelling at bitches half your age. You are a fake ass, holy Uncle Tom ass reverend. I guess you don't remember that you were supposed to look out for me. The reverend could not even remember the color of his garments he had just taken off moments ago, let alone whatever Bells was saying. He quickly tried to calm Bells down before things were completely out of hand. Wait, man, wait. I wanted to be there for you, but Mark insisted that he would handle it for you. That's the motherfucker you want. Just let me and my babies go, please. We will move away and you will never see us again. Hell, it's going to be just a matter of time before everyone in the community figures out what's going on. And I want to be long gone before that happens. So what do you say? Please spare us, brother. Bells reminded him, motherfucker, did you really think that little money I took from your bitch ass was enough for all the years I spent behind bars? You motherfuckers were supposed to take care of my trial, but you both left me there in that courtroom knowing I would rot in prison, didn't you? I guess you both forgot that we set that fire to Johnson's funeral home. It wasn't just me, you piece of shit. The Reverend responded quickly to diffuse Bells' anger. Then how the fuck did you get out with time served so soon? Don't tell me that the badass Bells started snitching. Man, shut the fuck up. There were motherfuckers in prison with me that did the same crime as me and only get 20 years behind bars. It was only years later that I was able to discover that you and fucking Mark Williams was an informant against me. So I have come back for all the money. That's right, nigga. Every fucking dime owed to me. All of it? Shit, now hold on, my brother. Take one of these bitches, but not all of my money, said the Reverend with a look of desperation on his face. Both are trained to do whatever you desire. Tell them, babies. Both young ladies with their heads still facing the downward position nodded in agreement. Now I know you have not had any woman pussy in years, nigga. Shit, take one of these bitches. I told you I would leave town, but I'm gonna need money to do it. Plus, leaving fucking Mark is not gonna be easy. That motherfucker got powerful friends, as we both know. Who the fuck are you calling brother? That ship sailed a long time ago, nigga. It's Mr. Bells for you now, said Bells as he raised both his guns and pointed them towards the naked and afraid Reverend. First you insult me by calling me a snitch. Then you pretty much call me a homosexual just because I was in prison. Nigga, you just pissed me off even more. See, I was going to take you up on your offer. I was going to let you go and take one of these bitches after taking your money. But now fuck you and both these bitches. In the blink of an eye, Bell switched his aim from the Reverend to one of the Latina ladies and shot her point blank in the head. This caused panic, and the other woman started screaming at the top of her lungs. She was covered with her friend's brain matter. The young lady's blood had splattered on both her and the Reverend. Both were now paralyzed in fear as they sensed that their own end was near. Bells looked at both and yelled, "Tell that bitch of yours to shut the fuck up," as he pointed his gun at the Reverend's head. Now that I got your fucking attention, get your ass up and fetch me my money from that fancy safe of yours. The Reverend, who was now being forced to act against his will, got up and approached the safe.
Por favor, no dispares,
screamed the Latina woman as tears rolled down her eyes. Quiet, goddammit! He's gonna shoot your dumb ass and mine too, said Reverend to the Latina woman, who started panicking even more. At this point, Bells had had enough of the woman screaming, and he decided to shoot the woman in the chest and then the head, leaving her motionless on a bloody bed. The Reverend could not believe his eyes. It was now sure that Bells was not playing around. He realized he had to give up everything he had to Bells if he wanted to have even a chance to get out of this situation alive. And once Bells would leave, he would contact Mark, who had some cops on his payroll to take care of Bells. While the Reverend was plotting revenge, Bells noticed the look of shock on the Reverend's face, who was standing as still as a statue, and said, "Hurry the fuck up and open the safe, lest you want to end up like these bitches with holes in different parts of your fucking body." "Shit, man, I'm nervous. You just killed both my ladies. What the fuck they do to you?" said the Reverend as he entered the password to a safe in the wall with trembling hands. As the safe opened, the Reverend yelled, backing away from the safe with both hands in the air to show no threat to Bells. "Here, take the damn money," with his hands still shaking from witnessing both his young ladies murdered as he tried to speak calmly. "Damn, Rev, that's a lot of money." "Great, now be a good boy and hand me those 2 clean pillowcases from your bed so I can bag all this paper. And don't get the ones with the blood on them either, bitch," said Bells with a big smile on his face. The Reverend, who was now hoping that Bells would appreciate his cooperation and let him live, carefully picked up a pair of bloodless pillowcases from the bed, which was now clearly a crime scene, and handed over the pillowcases to Bells. The Reverend watched him take all his fortunes. After Bells removed all the belongings from the safe, he turned to the Reverend and said, "I'm pretty sure you heard me when I told you I want all of it. Go to your computer and log into that bank account of yours, now," said Bells as he placed one of his guns on the Reverend's ribs. At this point, the Reverend was convinced that Bells would not let him live. However, he thought to himself that if he gave Bells what he wanted, maybe he might change his mind and let him live. It was a risky plan, but it was the only chance that he had to survive this ordeal. The Reverend reluctantly approached his computer and proceeded with logging into his bank account. "Now transfer all that money into this account," said Bells as he handed the Reverend a piece of paper with an 11-digit code on it. As soon as the Reverend saw the piece of paper, he realized that Bells had thought everything through and had no intention of letting him out of this situation alive. Hence, the only way he could survive was to talk his way out of this situation. He thought he could do something because of his ability to speak and deceive people as a preacher. "Look, brother, I was just doing what I was told. Do you really think I wanted to become an informant or even a goddamn preacher? I just did what he told me, man. If I give you all my money, are you still going to kill me?" asked the Reverend in desperation. "There's the man of faith everybody knows and love. Nigga, stop wasting my time and transfer the damn money," said Bells as he pointed the gun to the Reverend's head. The Reverend proceeded to transfer all his money into the account provided by Bells. Bells, with hopeful eyes, started rejoicing in knowing that he was now a wealthy man, but the Reverend's eyes, on the other hand, were begging for mercy. Bells knew that any notifications from his bank would take days regarding the transfer. He just received 7 figures, and that amount would take at least 48 hours to go through. Upon this realization, Bells, who was now satisfied, turned his attention to the Reverend, who looked like a deer caught in the headlights, and said, "Now, you're a man of God, right? So what I'm about to do should be okay with you since you're going to heaven anyway." He placed his finger firmly on his gun's trigger, which was now pointed to the Reverend's head. In fear, the Reverend turned his back against Bells. With his hands now folded in a praying position, started to pray to God loudly. "God, please find it in Brother Bell's heart to forgive me, as I had no choice but to betray him. Lord, you know that the white man turned us against each other, and 2 wrongs don't make a right. Brother Bell, you have taken everything from me. Please spare me." While the Reverend was praying, Bells was unfazed by what he was seeing and hearing, because he knew that the Reverend was now running out of his last reserve of faith and his end was near. "Now you wouldn't shoot an unarmed man in the back, would you?" said the Reverend as he ducked his head in fear as he prepared for the worst but hoped for the best. Bells never answered the question and simply decided to point the gun towards the Reverend's stomach and pulled the trigger. The Reverend rolled on the floor, screaming in pain as he tried to stop his bleeding by placing his hands on the wound. He tried his best to control his breathing, knowing that every breath was now very valuable. But Bells was not finished wounding him. He pointed his gun towards the Reverend again and shot him for a second time, but not in the stomach, as before. This time he aimed the bullet at the Reverend's back, primarily the spine area. "Oh God, help me! Stop! Please have mercy!" begged the Reverend as he began to lose consciousness. Blood was now dripping from his mouth. His teeth were a pinkish color from the bloodstain. Bells, who had clearly envisioned this exact moment several times in prison, clearly thought of everything. He dragged the Reverend's body out of the master bedroom. He took his lifeless body downstairs towards the garage that housed Reverend Albright's brand new car. He grabbed the car keys off the wall rack and used them to unlock the trunk of the fancy new Buick LeSabre in front of him. He thought to himself that the Reverend had really downgraded in vehicles since their last encounter. Bells picked up the Reverend, who was now completely lifeless, and tossed him into the trunk and closed it. He knew that someone would eventually find the Reverend. It may take a day or even a week, but he did not care. "Fuck those bitches and the Reverend," thought Bells to himself. As he walked back into the house, he tossed the car keys in a lit fireplace located in the living room. Bells left the Reverend's property a satisfied man, knowing he got his revenge and money. The next morning, Reverend Albright's housekeeper, Linda, arrived at the property to carry out her usual chores. As Linda approached the mansion's main door, she realized that the door was open and had not been locked by anyone. This was unusual because the Reverend never left his house open, especially in a neighborhood like this. Linda entered the house and announced her arrival, but received no response from anyone, not even the Latina ladies who lived on the property. As Linda made her way up the stairs, she noticed a trail of dried blood along the steps and instantly started to panic. She was not sure what had happened here, because the Reverend was a shady man. Nevertheless, Linda managed to make her way to the master bedroom. As soon as she entered the room, Linda was greeted by something she instantly wished she had never seen. Both the Latina women had been shot and left to die. Their lifeless bodies had been shot several times, and they looked like they had been in the room for a while. Linda started to scream for help as she ran downstairs toward the exit and began reciting verses from the Holy Bible in panic. Once she was off the residential premises, she quickly called the local police station to inform them of the horrific sight she had just witnessed. Soon enough, the local sheriff and his group of officers were at the Reverend's mansion and were going through the scene of the crime. They began by carefully examining the master bedroom. The sheriff made his team collect any fingerprint samples they could find, while he looked through the huge safe located in the Reverend's master bedroom with a flashlight. The safe had some crumbled dollar notes and some loose change here and there. Eventually, they ended up inside the garage. Bells had underestimated how influential and loved the Reverend was. "Look around. The trail of blood ends here. Check the lower cupboards," said the sheriff as he examined the brand new Buick with his gloves on. As the officers' team looked around, they could not find any evidence that could hint at where the Reverend's body was. But soon enough, that hurdle was also overcome. "Sir, the trunk has a piece of cloth sticking out of it," said one of the officers. "I don't think it's a good idea to touch the Reverend's wheels, but I guess we're running out of options here. Hell, if he's dead, he wouldn't mind anyway. Open it up," said the sheriff as he stepped back to let one of the officers stick a crowbar in the trunk's opening. As soon as the trunk opened, all the officers' worst fears were finally realized. The piece of cloth that was sticking out of the trunk earlier belonged to the Reverend's robe, and the Reverend himself lay inside the trunk motionless. The stench of his body instantly filled the whole garage as the officers looked at the lifeless body in silence. "Well, shit, this isn't going to be pretty," said the sheriff, as he clenched his nose with his hand so he could avoid the awful smell of the rotting corpse. One of the officers present in the garage worked for Mark part-time, and he realized that what he had just witnessed needed to be told to Mark. The officer slipped out of the room as quickly as he could and dialed Mark's number. "Sir, I got some very important news for you." "What now? I told you already. You get paid once you get that shit done," said Mark in an aggravated voice. "The Reverend's dead. You do realize what this does to us, right? Sir? Sir?" The officer realized soon enough that Mark had hung up the phone. The officer stared at his phone screen in silence as he contemplated who killed the Reverend and why.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist us by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and mean a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us. So be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
Ever since he came into our lives, he became one of the family. But now he's gone. Time goes by so fast, I wonder if she'll remember him as she grows older without him. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we can upload all our photos and videos of him. Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 10. Caught in the Act. The news about Reverend Albright's death would be quite a shock to the community. The Reverend was one of the few to champion the cause of eradicating gang violence from the neighborhoods with active gangs. He tried to offer the youth in these areas other means to be productive by forming baseball and basketball leagues. He often stated that if the kids had positive activities in their life, then they wouldn't look to gangs and drugs as the only way out of their desperate living conditions. He also knew that many families in the community had no men present to help raise their kids either, because of early deaths, drugs, prison, or simple abandonment. Therefore, he felt very strongly about providing himself as an example of a strong male figure. So in the people's eyes, he was the one that stood up to the gangs and often held peace rallies to protest them, even if they had no idea of his sinister ties to the underworld. To the people in the community, just him trying to help was enough to forgive him of any wrongdoings he had done in the past. Now that he is gone, all hope would soon cease to exist in the community. Moments after the news of Reverend Albright's death, the Williams Funeral Home mood was dreary. The once highly lighted building was now dark and eerie. As Thomas walked into the building, he could hear his grandfather talking loudly on the phone in his office. This was shocking to him, as he never witnessed or heard his grandfather yell in anger. Thomas had decided to visit his family's funeral home, which was usually the town's busiest place. But today, the building felt cold. Although the number of deaths in the past week had been staggering, it helped increase the funeral home's profit with each passing death. But now the whole situation seemed to be getting worse and worse for the community, with no end in sight. The morning had passed and the small southern town was on the brink of collapse. The number of murders in town increased daily, and the neighborhood was no longer considered safe or appropriate for any family with a desire to prosper within a community. Therefore, one could notice the beginning of a mass exodus in the town, as the once proud community members had to relocate to what they considered a safer environment to raise their families. "What?" yelled Mark as he talked to the police officer who was still present at the scene of the crime. "What happened to Reverend Albright? Do you have any idea who did this? You better give me some damn answers, boy." Mark had a strong hunch who committed the crime, but needed confirmation from the police before he would retaliate for the Reverend's death. "What the fuck do I pay you for if you can't tell me who killed one single nigger?" Mark noticed someone approaching his office in the corner of his eye. "Look, I'll call you back later, and you better have some damn answers by then, or I'll get a new cop to work for me in the morning. Do you understand me?" Mark quickly cut the call as Thomas walked into his darkly lit office. "What's the matter, grandfather? You seem on edge," said Thomas with a look of curiosity on his face. "Well, Thomas, I've just learned that the Reverend Albright's been murdered at his estate, along with 2 young ladies. What the hell is happening in this community? First the child, and now the Reverend, a man of God," said Mark with a look of concern on his face. "What?" asked Thomas. "Does anyone have any idea as to who did it and why?" Mark knew exactly who had done it and why, yet he decided to keep his cards close to his chest, especially in front of a reporter that happened to be his grandson. "Don't worry about that, Thomas. Let the police do their job. These things usually have a way of working themselves out eventually," soothed Mark as he tried to avoid Thomas's question. Upon hearing his grandfather say these words, Thomas suddenly had a déjà vu moment, as if he had heard the same words before, within the same context. He remembered that he was told the same thing by the officer Kelly, present at the scene of the crime of O.G. Mims' murder. This, to Thomas, was no coincidence. He had already begun to question the validity of his kin. "The O.G. Mims funeral, is it today?" asked Thomas. "Who the hell is that?" snapped Mark. "You know, the gangbanger who was killed a couple of days ago," replied Thomas. Mark began looking through the schedule until he finally arrived at O.G. Mims' name and told Thomas that Matthew Mims would be buried tomorrow morning. "Why are you asking? Are you covering the story for your newspaper? If so, then do not forget to mention our funeral home's name in your story. We can always use the free advertising. Remember, you're a Williams, and we put family above everything," said Mark selfishly. "Sure, grandfather. Anything for the family." "You know, you and Mother have been telling me that since I was a little kid," stated Thomas as he exited the office. As soon as Thomas left the office, Mark quickly called Officer Kelly so that he could resume the conversation he was having with him before Thomas walked into the office. "You idiot! You had one fucking job. The Reverend was supposed to be kept safe. What the fuck am I going to tell the people of the community?" yelled Mark. "All these murders are starting to cause too much attention to our operation. Now the death of Reverend Albright will surely make it to the locals and maybe even national news." "Hell, aren't all these deaths great for your business, boss?" said Officer Kelly. "The way I see it, the more dead bodies, the more drugs we can move. Simple mathematics." "So now you're the smart one. I think you've been around too many niggers, because now you think you're the smartest guy in the damn room. Let me remind you that your damn ass failed the police academy exam 2 times, and if I didn't pull some strings, your ass would still be a night security guard at the graveyard. Do you remember that, smart ass?" asked Mark. Mark always knew that the poor whites needed some purpose to make them feel good about themselves. So he remembered what his father told him as a child, that the poor white trash was better off just being police officers. This would ensure that they would protect the wealth of the whites and help them gain superiority over the blacks, since those are the ones that were the biggest threat to the great white society. So in the end, Mark knew that dealing with Officer Kelly was just a necessary evil to keep things in their natural order as he envisioned it to be. Yes, I remember that, but I was also the one who had the idea to transport the drugs in the caskets too. And that seemed to work out great for you and your family, pointed out Officer Kelly. So let us act like civilized white men and let me do my damn job. You will have the information you need in the fucking morning, Mark. Both men hung up their phones, and they also knew in their hearts who was behind the murder of Reverend Albright. Both thought that his death was only the beginning and should be on high alert moving forward. The next morning, the church was filled with people wearing red. There were red suits, dresses, hats, bandanas, and shoes. There were red flowers throughout the church. Some even brought small dogs with red bandanas tied around their necks in support of their fallen leader. It seemed as if everyone from the Blood side of town had shown up to show their support for OG Mims and his family. The Blood gang members came out in packs to show their support for their fallen leader. But the Crips, as figured, were nowhere to be seen, and neither was Loco Blue. But just in case the rival gang did decide to show up during the funeral, the Blood gang was ready. One could not help but notice that most in attendance had guns visibly showing on their attire. It seemed everyone could feel that the Crips would not waste this opportunity to disrespect OG Mims one last time. People still remembered the shooting that took place during Jamal Blue's funeral. Therefore, retaliation seemed like a sure thing knowing both gangs' violent history. Thomas decided to show up early for OG Mims' funeral. He was noticeably the only white face in a sea of melanin-rich faces. But this did not bother him, as he decided to pay close attention to everything that would occur during the funeral. The substitute reverend, who usually took over for Reverend Albright in his absence, gave the sermon. Since the news of the reverend's death had not reached the entire community yet, there were rumors that he had met his demise the day before. No one knew what had happened to the reverend, and emotions were running high. Thomas decided to keep the knowledge of the reverend's death to himself for now. He wanted to just observe everyone's reaction, and just maybe one of them would lead him to a break in his investigation. Once the sermon was over, everyone got up and made their way towards the burial site, following a convoy of cars moving towards OG Mims' burial site. As usual, Officer Kelly led the convoy as the motorcycle police driver. His job was to ensure all traffic was detoured to allow the families and loved ones safe passage to the burial site. Officer Kelly enjoyed leading the convoy and smiled to himself as he was assisting in putting another black man in the ground. Hell, he figured that at this rate, in 30 years, these blacks would be an endangered species that one would have to go to an exhibit to see them in person. The thought of this alone made him happy. He truly hated them all. Thomas expected many people would come out in droves to support OG Mims, but he was very surprised by the number of people that had shown up. The burial was short but emotional. As the hot sun beamed down, many were seen crying, and some even poured alcoholic beverages onto the ground to mourn their leader. Others were observing all the roads leading to the burial site as they anticipated the Crips disturbing OG Mims being laid to rest. The burial ceremony had taken place with no issues, to everyone's surprise. Even the sun's beam started to cool shortly after OG Mims' body was in the ground. All the guests started to leave the graveyard one by one until everyone was off the premises. While the number of people present at the funeral was decreasing, Thomas decided to hang around a little longer and observe his surroundings. Once he found a suitable location where he could view the entire ceremony, his eyes fell onto his grandfather, Mark. Thomas observed that Mark was still upset and was talking to Officer Kelly, who was struggling to keep Mark calm. Something was going on, and Thomas had to get to the bottom of it. "So, what's the word on Reverend Albright's murder?" asked Mark. "It was as we expected. The nigger Bells did it. You know he needed to die the moment he showed his black face at your funeral home," mentioned Officer Kelly. "Yes, you were right about that one. But I figured after he took the Reverend's money and car, that would be the end of us having to put up with Bells. But this hard-headed nigger just won't quit. So after this damn burial finishes, move the product, then take care of that nigger. But don't kill him. That would be too good for him. Send his ass back to jail, and this time for life. I'm sure if he has to go back to jail, that nigger will kill himself." The thought of that made Officer Kelly smile, because even his sick racist mind would not have thought of something so evil to do to Bells. He admired Mark's cruelty. As Thomas maneuvered his way closer to their location to maximize his ability to hear their conversation, he was noticed once again. Once Thomas was noticed by his grandfather, Mark shook Officer Kelly's hand and quickly walked back to his vehicle, but not before instructing Officer Kelly to finish his job. At first, Thomas thought about running after his grandfather to ask him some more questions, but he decided this probably was not the right time to ask questions. So he decided to head back to his car as well. The day was long. He could use some quiet time to think back at the funeral home. Officer Kelly started overseeing the final step of the burial of O.G. Mims, in which his casket was being lowered into the grave. As Thomas got into his car, he soon realized that he had dropped his phone near the burial site, as he did not have it on him, so he decided to go back and find it. Thomas walks towards the point he was standing earlier and notices his phone on the ground. Once he picks it up, however, he sees something that baffles him. As soon as he looks in O.G. Mims' burial site's direction, he notices Officer Kelly standing alongside Loco Blue as they slowly remove the casket from the ground. Thomas senses a strangeness of what he is seeing, and he decides to eavesdrop on whatever is going on by hiding behind one of the large pictures of O.G. Mims, placed right behind the two men. Both men proceeded to take the casket out of its resting place and begin to open it as if they were looking for gold. Soon, however, Thomas realizes what is going on. He witnessed both men pull out huge bricks of white powder that looked like cocaine out of the casket. Damn, that motherfucker Mark hooked us up this time. This product is fresh as fuck, said Loco Blue as he sniffed the bag of powder. That shit's for sale, not for your enjoyment. Put that down, said Officer Kelly as he kept on emptying the casket. Is this the way you're gonna talk to your number one worker? Hell, at this fucking point, I'm your only worker, laughed Loco Blue. Officer Kelly's face turned a bright red as he could not believe that this nigger had the nerve to talk to him so disrespectfully. In his mind, even though the other whites might consider him trash, he still believed that he was better than any nigger, rich or poor. Let me tell you something, boy. You people come and go all the time, said Kelly. Even if the Williams' family are gone, there will always be somebody ready to give you people drugs and kill yourselves. Hell, I wish you fuckers would do us all a favor and just get the fuck out of this country. Because we will never see any of you as equals. And that's the way it will always be, boy. What the fuck ever, cracker. Just give me the damn dope before I decide to sell it in your part of town, bitch, said Loco Blue. And that'll be the last piece of dope you sell, boy. Because you know the rules on selling the whites unless you get my permission, yelled Officer Kelly. Thomas, who could not believe his eyes, realized that it was his grandfather all along who had been supplying the community with drugs and helped initiate the gang violence that ultimately got Jamal Blue killed as a result. Thomas started to connect the dots as to how his grandfather was able to make a simple funeral home into such a lucrative business. He soon concluded that Mark had been doing this for years and furiously started to head towards his car so that he could confront Mark right now. Thomas got into his car, amazingly undetected this time. He proceeded to race past 3 red cars driving in the opposite direction toward the burial site. He noticed that those individuals driving the cars were the Blood Gang members, and they were there to get their revenge for what Loco Blue had done to O.G. Mims. As the Blood Gang members get out of their cars, they noticed Loco Blue out in the middle of the graveyard, walking towards his car parked on the other side with large duffel bags in his hand. They saw their opportunity to kill Loco Blue once and for all, and they decided to take it. Suddenly, bullets start flying towards Loco Blue's position, and he realizes that he has been compromised, so he begins to make a run for his car while still holding onto his duffel bags. Loco Blue gets shot in the arm, which prompts him to drop one of the bags. He keeps running toward the car with one bag in his hand. "Drop it, you dumb motherfucker!" yells Officer Kelly as he makes a run for his bike. However, soon one of the bullets meets its mark and penetrates one of Loco Blue's legs, causing him to collapse on the ground as he bleeds from both his arm and leg heavily. "Fuck you, blood!" he screams as he pulls out his Glock and begins firing in random directions to scare off the bloods. Loco Blue realizes that Officer Kelly has abandoned him to fight this fight by himself and is already on his bike making his way out of the area. "Kelly, help me, you piece of shit! I'm gonna kill you, motherfucker!" said Loco Blue as he begins shooting in the direction of the bloods. "Come at me, you pig! You think I'm scared? I'm ready to die, you fool!" said Loco Blue as he miraculously managed to get onto his 2 feet and start shooting at the bloods. However, after emptying his bullets briskly, Loco realizes that he just wasted all of his bullets as he finally sees the bloods come out of their cover. "You dumb motherfucker. You think we was about to let your dumb ass live?" said one of the older blood members. "Motherfucker, fuck you, and that pig O.G. Mims." Before Loco Blue has a chance to finish, He gets shot right in the forehead by the Blood Gang member, after which he approaches Loco's body and says, "You were saying something? Get them bags off the ground and into the car. Quick, give me some damn fuel so I can light this motherfucker's body up in his own goddamn car," said the Blood Gang member as he began dragging Loco Blue's body toward the blue car. He placed Loco's body on the trunk of the car and began soaking the car with fuel. Once he gets done with emptying the whole can of fuel, he decides to shoot at the car, which causes a huge explosion and makes the car go into flames. "This ought to serve as a lesson for the motherfucking Crips. Ain't nobody fucks with the Bloods and get away with it," said the Blood Gang member as he stood and watched Loco Blue's body burn into ashes. Meanwhile, Thomas, fueled by anger, decides to approach the family's funeral home so that he may confront Mark about what he had just seen and heard. Thomas always felt that it was a bit strange that his family could do so well for itself, even though they were living in a poverty-ridden community. He felt like he had uncovered the harshest truth and did not want it to be true, but he had to find out. As he walked into the office where his grandfather and mother were having a discussion, laughing, and having a good time, he realized how flawed they really were as human beings. Because the community had just undergone such brutal and gruesome times, the last thing Thomas wanted to see was his family laughing and enjoying himself. Still, he realized that this was now his reality and that he had to deal with the fact that he did not know anything about his family. Mark and Mary, who noticed Thomas storming in, shifted their attention from whatever it was they were talking about to Thomas. Mary addressed Thomas.
"Oh, hey, dear. Do you care for something to eat?"
Suddenly, Mary was cut off by Thomas as he banged his hands on Mark's desk and said, "Tell me you two have nothing to do with the drugs being transported in the burial caskets. There's no way you two knew anything about this, right?" Both the family members start to laugh, which aggravates Thomas even more, and he erupts with anger. "What's so funny here? We are the pillars of the community. Hell, we even sponsor youth events in the community," said Thomas with a look of shock on his face. The answer that followed Thomas's question made his worst fears come to life and made him reevaluate his whole outlook on his family and its background.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and means a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us, so be kind and know that we consider you as family.
This episode is brought to you by Fond Recollections. Cherish the fond memories of your loved ones with their interactive living obituary.
He worked so hard to ensure we had a great life, but now he's gone. We miss him so much. One day our granddaughter won't remember him or how wonderful he was. Fond Recollections offers us a chance to remember him when he was young and full of life. With Fond Recollections memorial plaques and website, we could upload all our photos and videos of him.
Visit fondrecollection.com today and cherish the happy memories of your loved ones.
Chapter 11. The Bitter Truth. His relatives continued to laugh at Thomas and his naivete and left Thomas standing speechless for a good minute before Mark finally spoke. "Come on, son, really? Where do you think all this money came from?" As he pointed to the expensive art collection hanging from his office's walls. "Hell, fuck this community, son. We couldn't care less about these niggers," stated Mark with an unbothered look on his face. Thomas, who had been out of the loop for far too long, could not believe what he was hearing. Then again, he had always had his doubts about his family's affiliations and his source of income, but he had never imagined that it would be this bad in a million years. "Let me tell you a little story about our funeral home business, son," said Mark to a silent and discontented Thomas. In the late 1960s, Our family moved to this community because of the high population of colored individuals in it. We've always known that it was a matter of time before they start killing each other, said Mark as he pointed out into the casket area. But back then, things were different. And turns out, this was the worst possible place for us to set up a business. In the past, all that black power and unity shit was all the rage. They all went to the same schools, lived in clean neighborhoods, stuck together, and even spent their damn money on black-owned businesses, said Mark as he got up from his seat and began pulling out some files from his bookshelf. See, that wasn't good for business, and so all the niggas went to the Johnson family's funeral home, and I had a business that was on the brink of collapse while raising a daughter who was in college. That is when I was approached by the FBI to help them get these niggers back under control, said Mark as he began tossing classified files relating to the intentionally perpetrated crimes of the FBI toward the African American community in the 1960s. These files showed gruesome pictures of abuse and evidence of manipulation, and the worst part about it was that all of it was known by those who, by the looks of it, maintained law and order of this little southern town. Thomas, who had finally lost faith, listened in silence as Mark continued speaking. The FBI told me about their plans for America, the danger niggers pose to the fabric of our society. Therefore, naturally, I listened to their plan and became inspired.
Which I'm sure will inspire you too, honey,
said Mary with a smile on her face. The good man over at the FBI explained to me how they were going to infiltrate the school system and divide the niggers. This plan would drop all that black unity shit by introducing Freemason lounges to make some niggers think they were better than others, said Mark as he pointed to the picture of himself and the Reverend toasting their champagne glasses and laughing. Finally, we introduced hard and extremely addictive narcotics into the black community to weaken them and especially their leaders, said Mark as he pointed to an old African-American man giving a speech on the podium of the Johnson family's funeral home. The Johnsons were prospering while I laid in the dirt. I could not let that happen, not for your sake, stated Mark as he pointed at Mary and Thomas. So I did what any smart individual would have done. I hired two men that helped me build this empire, Reverend Albright and his friend Bells. Two niggers willing to be bought by a white man. These two men helped me take care of the Johnson family's funeral home and helped me distribute the drugs, continued Mark as he showed Thomas the picture of Johnson family's funeral home burnt to the ground. And as you know, everything went as planned. President Nixon declared a war on drugs to stop the hippies and niggers from voting and affecting the outcome of his presidential election. And voila, a generation of nigger male was put behind bars for decades. This ensured that the blacks wouldn't be a threat to America for generations, said Mark as he pointed to the pictures of jail cells filled with African-American males. Now, our job was to make sure the drugs were always available to them and to get rid of their bodies. So you see, transporting the drugs in the burial caskets is a great idea. We make money off the drugs, and niggers die during the process. We charge them for the burial and give them more drugs to sell after the funeral service. Now that is what I call God's plan. A plan to keep the white man the master of these fucking monkeys, boasted Mark as he laid back into the chair and looked at Thomas without any remorse. Thomas had had enough. He had listened to the whole thing quietly and was ready to erupt with anger. What the actual fuck, mother? You knew about this shit? Asked Thomas angrily.
Honey, I see nothing wrong with making sure the natural order of things is maintained. You do not know anything about those times. They were much safer for white women. Niggers back then were always ready to rape and kill you. Some of them even started walking around with their noses in the air, thinking that they were equal or even better than us,
said Mary as she laughed sarcastically with Mark. They started going to them nigger colleges and asking for the same jobs as hard-working white folk. They were terrible times, honey. Daddy did the right thing by helping the government putting these niggers in their place. She too leaned back in her chair as if nothing she had just said bothered her in the slightest. Damn right. I hate those niggers with the stuck-up attitude the most, especially Satanist Jesse Jackson when he ran for president of the United States of America. That gave the niggers more reasons to act like fools, shooting and yelling on election night, making the former FBI director Hoover turn over in his damn grave, said Mark as he pointed to his Confederate flag tucked away in his office closet. Finally, Mr. David Duke had the idea of putting things back into order, and those niggas had the gall to think we feared them, said Mark as he chuckled along with Mary. Those lazy motherfuckers with their ugly ass kids. Hell, all the niggas in this community named Williams was owned by our family. We made them niggas go through a hard day's work, and now look at them. Sitting around waiting for a damn government check making us, their rightful masters, do all the work? It just isn't right, said Mark as he took a sip of his beer and leaned back into his chair. So, you hate all blacks? I saw you yesterday. You were upset upon hearing about the preacher's demise. I guess not all blacks are treated equally, huh? Said Thomas angrily. Mark, who now felt like he was being humiliated by his grandson, decided to fire back. The late Reverend was a nigger that I controlled. I do not give a damn about his death. I was angry because now I need another nigger preacher to help me transport the damn drugs. I have inventory that must be moved, and nothing can stop it. Plus, I know that crazy-ass nigger Bells was behind the Reverend's murder. Now I need to get his nigger ass sent back to jail for life, said Mark as he stabbed the red bandana lying in front of him with a pen. As Mark was talking to his grandson and his daughter, he did not notice Bells, who was standing behind him with a gun pointed towards his head. Mark kept on talking until he noticed Thomas's eyes get larger and larger. Suddenly, an intense fear took over Mark as he realized that someone was behind him. He also knew that someone could very possibly be Bells. Bells, who had had enough of all the chatter, finally decided to pull the trigger, instantly killing Mark in a heartbeat. Mary started screaming at the top of her lungs and began crying, making Bells point his gun in her direction. "Shut up, bitch, if you know what's good for you. Both of you," said Bells. Mary, who was still hot in the face, somehow managed to calm herself down, as if she knew this day would come. Thomas, on the other hand, remained paralyzed. Bells, who had no conflict with either of the remaining people in the room, decided to walk out, leaving behind two scared and confused individuals. As soon as Bells left, Thomas quickly called the police and explained what had just happened. This was truly a dark day for the Williamses, as their fate had finally caught up to them. 2 weeks had now passed, and Thomas's story about the community was printed in his newspaper. As the story gained national coverage, social media soon followed, and this horrifying story about a little town in the South was now trending across the country. Many around the country were upset to find out that white supremacy and the totalitarian government were responsible for destroying black communities currently. Thomas's story spawned pro-black movements all over the world. African Americans were determined to support their businesses, enforce higher education, and unite on political issues. Thomas, on the other hand, was receiving death threats. Nevertheless, he was pleased that his story made such a difference in perspective for so many people. One evening, as Thomas was leaving the building of the newspaper he worked for, he was approached by a familiar face. The only difference being, she was now in a wheelchair. "Dee Dee, what happened to you?" asked Thomas to the wife of Loco Blue and the mother of Jamal Blue.
I hope you're happy with the outcome of your story. You got fame and recognition, but at what cost? Look at how many people died because of your damn story,
complained Dee Dee as she looked at Thomas with pain in her eyes. "Dee Dee, to be fair, all this happened because of you. You were the one who decided to have an affair with your man's best friend. Then you married him and had kids with the guy while your man was in prison. Now what do you think was going to happen once he got out of prison?" asked Thomas.
You don't know shit about my situation. Mims was kicking my ass daily while we were together. Blue was there for me during these beatings, but could not do anything to stop it for fear of his own life. Once that monster went to prison, Blue stepped up and took care of me,
cried Dee Dee as tears rolled down her eyes.
It's inevitable when two people are around each other for long periods. Sex will become a factor. We heard that Mims was going crazy in prison when he heard the news that Blue and I had gotten married and were now having kids. Shit! Blue had to join the Crips for protection,
said Dee Dee. I know the story, Dee Dee, but you didn't answer my question. How'd you end up in a wheelchair? Asked Thomas.
Mims's girl. She was pissed when she heard that he was murdered, and for some reason that bitch thought I had something to do with it. She waited for me to leave my house and ambushed me from behind. She shoots me in the back and both my knees, and as you can see, I can never walk again. All because of your damn story,
said Dee Dee as she pointed towards her lifeless legs. Again, Dee Dee, my story had nothing to do with your situation. The wheels were already set in motion without me getting involved. Besides, the community is now drug-free. Now, if you would, please excuse me, I'm late for an appointment, said Thomas as he started making his way towards his car.
You a stupid son of a bitch! Do not think for a second since your old man died that the community is safe and drug-free. There's always someone looking to take advantage of the black community,
screamed Dee Dee. Thomas, who was now in his car, began driving towards the direction of his apartment. As he was making his way home, he turned on the radio and heard a new car dealership advertisement. Dick Kelly's car dealership with over 500 cars to choose from at our location. We accept bad credit, no credit, and no job, no problem. To us, everyone is approved, said the voiceover man reading the advertisement in an enthusiastic tone. Upon hearing this, Thomas began thinking that there are not nearly as many people in town to buy so many cars. Therefore, how could such a business model operate in such a town? As Thomas was driving by, he noticed a police motorcycle flashing his hazard lights and leading a convoy of trucks. The man riding the motorcycle suddenly slid down his aviators and winked at Thomas. "Officer Kelly?" said Thomas as he realized it was Officer Kelly, the same man that worked for his grandfather at the funeral home. Officer Kelly was now working for the new car dealership called Dick Kelly Nissan. "Hey there, sport. Cool story you got published. I read it over my early morning coffee," said Officer Kelly with a smile on his face. Thomas, who was speechless for a moment, finally replied, "Thanks, officer." Officer Kelly quickly replied to him, "But now you know this shit will never stop. Someone will always destroy this community with drugs and crime. Hell, our great country is built on it," said Officer Kelly as he raised his aviators and rode off on his bike. Thomas was left behind shocked and disheartened as he finally gave into the situation and thought to himself that no one in this community has unclean hands. Is there hope for this little town? Is everybody unclean? Who will now try to take control of the drug market? Stay tuned as we address these questions in part 2 of this trilogy.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or picked up anything from this episode, please assist us by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. You can also comment and share our content. These small things really help our channel and mean a lot to us. Also, special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel, and we can't thank you enough for being so generous. If you would like to join our Patreon community, please click on the link below. You can contribute as little as $5 per month. You can get all kinds of perks. You can even buy merchandise of your favorite characters at our shop store. Click on the link provided below. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, remember you are cherished by us. So be kind and know that we consider you as family.